Chapter 4240. It was very obvious that the Crown Princess was very wary of the Long Clan. No matter what they did or said, the Crown Princess would associate it with deceiving her to go to the River of Forgetfulness, or what is the Long Clan's goal in the River of Forgetfulness? Longmao couldn't help but sigh. He looked up at the silent little Crown Princess sitting beside the Crown Prince and planned to talk to the Emperor about this. It was night. The moon was as deep as water, and the stars filled the sky. Arbor leaned against the window and looked up at the faint swaying figure in front of her. "Child, is this my child? Child, don't think about revenge. Don't do anything. Don't think about anything. Live well and promise mother, okay?" It was just like the letter she had seen in Long Chiyun's handwritten letter in the Land of Heritage. Long Chiyun's life lantern miniature did not leave behind any accusations of revenge or unwillingness. There were only some calm and serene statements. The place she could see in the life lantern miniature was the scenery of a Land of Heritage. She had named this place Chuyun Star. Long Chiyun's last days were spent in the Land of Inheritance. Arbor saw her carrying the infant in swaddling clothes and walking slowly in the Land of Heritage with a faint smile on her pale face. It was the first time Arbor saw a clear Long Chiyun at such a close distance. When the figure floated in front of her, she couldn't help but reach out, only to grab air. It was impossible to say that she wasn't disappointed. The little fellow expressionlessly put the figure back into the round jade pendant and said indifferently, "You really are an idiot. In this cannibalistic world, if you don't move forward, you'll be eaten until not even your bones are left. For the sake of the Dragon Clan, you didn't hesitate to break off relations with the Mu Clan. In the end, you didn't end well on either side. Did anyone in the Dragon Clan say anything about you? When the Dragon Clan was ambushed in the River of Forgetfulness, did they come out to find you after recovering their vitality? Even after 3 to 5 years, did they come to find you? No, they didn't do anything. A married daughter is like spilled water. They've long forgotten about you." "Idiot," Arbor muttered softly, his little hand tightly gripping the round jade pendant. "Mother, I miss you. If you were still alive, you would have personally taught me martial arts and alchemy. What kind of fate did they have to miss each other for 2 lifetimes?" When Yin pushed open the door and entered, she saw the shadow of the moon cast on Jojo. It made her look gloomy and gloomy. Under the moonlight, she looked dark and gloomy. "Why aren't the lights on?" He hastily walked up and picked up the little stoic. With a casual flick of his finger, he lit up all the candlesticks around them. The firelight illuminated the 2 people's faces. Sparks danced in the candlestick, and in an instant, it was as if the entire room was lit up. Yin turned her little head over and looked at her seriously. "Don't let your imagination run wild, okay? With you like this, your husband can't do anything. I just want to keep an eye on you all day long." The little stoic's little face was wooden. Her eyelids rolled slightly as she cast him a dispirited glance. "Jojo, I heard that there are a lot of lotus flowers in that pond, Lotus Sacred Realm. Red, yellow, green, blue. There are all kinds of them you've seen before and haven't seen before." Arbor lifted his little face and looked at Yin blankly. And then, "No matter what the Dragon Clan's goal is, we might as well follow their wishes and go to the River of Forgetfulness to refine the pond Lotus Sacred Realm." Chapter 4241. Arbor looked up at him curiously. "Your dad wants us to go." Yin nodded slightly. In reality, the trip to the River of Forgetfulness was imperative. Both of them were well aware that it all depended on how they went. "Do you think the incident on Leisha Island is reliable?" Arbor was silent for a moment before looking up at Yin curiously. The matter of forming the Heavenly Fate Legion should be reliable. When Yin read the words "kill the Heavenly Fate," she couldn't help but facepalm in exasperation. The Heavenly Fate's devastation in the coastal villages is much more severe than what we see here. Yin carried the little stoic and walked to the side to sit down. Comparatively speaking, the situation in the River of Forgetfulness will be more tense. Isn't it suspicious that the Dragon Clan of Forgetfulness detained the state preceptor with ulterior motives? Yin brushed away the hair by her cheek. Long Qian's explanation to royal father was that the state preceptor trespassed on their sacred land for some unknown reason and was subsequently arrested. They said that the entire matter had nothing to do with our divine province and was merely the state preceptor's personal grudge with the river of forgetfulness. Then why did the state preceptor send a message saying that the dragon clan of forgetfulness is using him to threaten me to go? This Long Qian's explanation is also correct. The state preceptor is recklessly fabricating nonsense. Arbor scoffed and nodded. Let's just assume that his explanation makes sense. Emolian rubbed her head with a smile. They probably discovered that using the state preceptor to threaten us is completely useless. They simply didn't expect that these two had always been used to acting recklessly and willfully. Why would they rush over to rescue the state preceptor because of his life and death? There's something wrong with their brains. Arbor pursed her lips in disdain and nudged her head against Prince Mo's chest. Let's go then. I've never been to the River of Forgetfulness, so I don't know what the place Mother grew up in is like. Emolian hugged her and lowered her head to look at her gently. Long Qian used mother-in-law's remains to lure me in. It is said that the land of forgetfulness is the place where mother-in-law grew up. Traces of mother-in-law's growth can be seen everywhere. Mother-in-law also left behind many relics in the River of Forgetfulness. I've already promised him. He reached out to stroke his wife's head and said softly, I don't want you to have any regrets. Arbor's eyes flickered. He tilted his head and shook his sleeve. Okay, it wasn't like she was afraid of the Forgotten River Dragon clan. Just as Jojo's Lotus had said, she would go. She would refine their precious pond Lotus Sacred Realm so that these people with evil intentions wouldn't even be able to find a place to cry. Emo Yin smiled as he nuzzled her jade-white forehead, asking softly, Xiao Xiao, if we refine the pond Lotus Sacred Realm in the future, what star should we call it? Jojo's Lotus Star. The little stoic spoke seriously and wrapped her arms around his neck. Grow more colorful lotus flowers. When the time comes, we'll move in and live there for a while. Emolian couldn't resist laughing out loud and nodded repeatedly. MHM. Then we'll call it Xiao's Lotus Star. Sir Jojo's eyes brightened, and he nodded in approval. This couple was starting to yearn for the pond Lotus Holy Land. In fact, they hadn't even taken any shape yet, but these two scoundrels had already claimed the pond Lotus Holy Land as their own and even gave it a name in advance. Everything was ready. All that was left was to take this trip. After the two finished their discussion, the little stoic took out a handful of spirit root tempering pills from her pocket. That golden lotus is quite effective. Just now, she poked Little Treasure a dozen times, and it spat out a handful. Chapter 4242. Arbor stuffed these spirit root tempering pills into a bag and stuffed it into Emo Lien's hands. Give it to those less talented children of the Purple Forest Guard. It should be of help to them. These spirit root tempering pills could help them increase their aptitude. The difference in innate spirit roots could be said to be heaven and earth on the path of cultivation. Even if people with ordinary spirit roots cultivated diligently for several hundred years, they might not be able to surpass people with extraordinary aptitude. Although it made people feel deeply helpless, there was nothing they could do about it. Now, these spirit root tempering pills could help cultivators with ordinary aptitude increase their aptitude. At the very least, it could make their future path of cultivation a little easier and simpler. Emolian nodded with a smile and put away the bag of spirit root tempering pills. Tomorrow, I'll have Ao Yi handle it. He hugged the little fellow and said softly, those brats will definitely be very happy. On the morning of the next day, the two had just woken up in a sticky state when Eunuch Chun ran in joyfully with his flower-pinching fingers. Your Highness the Crown Prince, Crown Princess, His Majesty's reward has arrived. The little stoic was eating porridge with a spoon. Upon hearing this, she looked up and asked in bewilderment, what reward? Emo Lien placed a portion of pastry meat in front of his wife and said solemnly, His Majesty naturally has to reward us since he sent us on a diplomatic mission to Wangchuan. What a joke. If there was no reward, they could go as they pleased. It was such an arduous mission, and they had to wander the seas and spend their days on a deserted island. Not everyone could endure this kind of hardship. Arbor's eyes brightened, and he tossed his spoon aside and pulled Emolian up. "Let's go and take a look." Emolian tugged at her small hand in amusement and picked up her small rice bowl. "Have someone move a table outside. You can admire it while eating." "Good idea. Perhaps if this darling is happy, I can eat 2 more bowls of porridge." Sir Jojo's eyes seemed to be sparkling. Prince Emo couldn't help but be overjoyed as he watched from the side. He knew that his wife was the happiest when she was counting the supplies. His father had done a good job today. He had sent someone to deliver gifts early in the morning so that Jojo could eat more thus. Everyone saw that their master had the dining table moved out of the courtyard early in the morning and accompanied his wife to eat a very sumptuous breakfast in the garden. Everyone in the Eastern Palace knew that the great emperor had sent someone to deliver the reward. The gifts flowed into the Eastern Palace like flowing water. Just the list of gifts alone took more than 2 hours. After the little crown princess finished her breakfast, she nibbled on some fruits and some pastries. When the list of gifts was finally finished, she was secretly speechless. Her eyes sparkled as she glanced at her husband beside her. She nodded repeatedly and said, "Your father is quite impressive." Of course, Mother opened Father's private storehouse and dug out a lot of good stuff for us. Prince Emo grinned and rubbed against his wife's body. "Jojo, I'll give you all of these. Are you happy?" Arbor nodded. "Don't worry, there must be a lot of things in the river of forgetfulness. When the time comes, your husband will secretly help you search for them," Prince Emo murmured in his wife's ear. Sir Jojo's little face became more energetic. Those who were originally very resistant to the idea of going to the river of forgetfulness were now inexplicably reduced by half. Jojo's lotus was right. Since they had a hidden agenda and were harboring evil intentions, Sir Jojo and her husband would go and rob their nest clean. The river of forgetfulness was vast and had abundant resources. Chapter 42-43. When Emolian saw that his wife was starting to get spirited, he hurriedly struck while the iron was hot. "Jojo, let's go. We'll go and pack up these goods. Look at our father. He's so rustic, he didn't even bring out a space ring. He even had to bring out a list of gifts to sing, putting on airs." If Emolution heard this, he would definitely scold this rascal to death. What was a reward? Of course, everyone in and out of the court knew. That was a true reward. Si Chiao nodded in deep agreement. Then, she stretched out her hand and made a gesture. Over 10 storage talismans suddenly floated up into the air and sorted everything in the courtyard. Then, all the things that were scattered all over the ground were stored away. Crown Princess. Li suddenly appeared in front of the young Crown Princess with a leap. This fellow's little face was taut, and there was even a small square brocade box under her arm. When she saw the young Crown Princess looking at her, she respectfully extended her hand to present the brocade box to her. "Please take a look." Her Majesty the Empress said that the property inside should originally be handed over to Your Highness the Crown Prince. Since the Crown Princess is in charge now, it's the same to hand it over to you. The young Crown Princess took a look and saw that it was filled to the brim with house deeds and spirit coin cards. Her little hand trembled, and she almost dropped the things on the ground. When Emolian saw this, he hurriedly extended his hand to help her hold onto the brocade box. The young Crown Princess quickly patted her husband's chest, saying with a long sigh, "Mother really doesn't lack money. Wife, keep all of these well. They're all yours now." When the Crown Prince said this, he didn't see those palace maids and eunuchs in the courtyard looking at him with worried gazes. They were really worried for His Highness Ah. In front of the Crown Princess, why did he hand everything over? They remembered that those court officials would more or less keep some private stash of money on their side as backup. His Highness the Crown Prince was too honest with his wife. "Husband, do you want to keep some for your use?" "No need. Husband has money." The group of palace maids and eunuchs looked at each other and felt a trace of melancholy. Although he didn't know where this trace of melancholy came from, he still felt quite stifled. Every time they saw the way His Highness and the Crown Princess interacted, they always felt a little stifled. At this time, they still didn't understand that this was the feeling of a single dog being forced to swallow a mouthful of dog food and having nowhere to complain. Speaking of which, the crown prince and his wife didn't have much to prepare. In the past 2 days, the young crown princess had chosen a few of the more famous shops and estates in the capital from the estate the empress had given her and toured them. Sigh, the number of businesses in her hands was increasing. It seemed that she needed to train a manager to help her manage all the businesses. When the little crown princess returned, her face was full of melancholy. When Crown Prince saw that his wife was unhappy again, he quickly asked for the reason. He couldn't help but laugh. "Jojo, isn't it just finding a female manager? What's there to be worried about? You forgot that there are many talents in all aspects in husband's hidden night pavilion. I'll find one for you." Crown Prince was a man of his word. In less than half a day, he had found a capable female manager for Arbor, Song Ting. Arbor had a long talk with her and was very satisfied with this shrewd middle-aged woman. In the future, with someone to help him filter out important information and grasp all the business trends, she would be able to relax a lot. After all, she still had to put most of her energy into cultivation. As for the various problems with the businesses, she could only pick the important ones to deal with. Chapter 42-44. After another 2 days, Long Qian could not hold it in any longer and went to the emperor to persuade him. For example, Tianyun is in dire straits. We cannot waste any more time on singing and dancing. Another example was, the crown princess leads people around the capital every day. We should not waste too much energy on nonsense. We should focus on doing something practical. He rambled on until the emperor felt dizzy and could not help but reach out to interrupt him. "Young Master Long, what are you trying to say?" Long Qian took a deep breath. If he could, he would pick up the inkstone beside him and smack the emperor on the head. "Why are you pretending to be confused? Your Majesty, let's not beat around the bush. The situation along the River of Forgetfulness is really bad. We should unite the 3 continents and fight against Tianyun together. This is not a joke. We have already delayed long enough. I wonder when the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess can set off with us?" "Oh." Realization dawned on the Emperor's face as he nodded and said, "We thought you had already discussed it with the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. Didn't you?" Long Qian, why was this family so difficult to deal with? Long Huan pressed his throbbing head and tried his best to suppress the anger in his belly. What was her relationship with the little crown princess? The emperor would have to be blind to not see it. Their relationship was already like this, but the little crown princess would either roll her eyes or ignore them expressionlessly whenever she saw them. What was the point of discussing? The crown prince had no integrity in front of his wife. How could they expect the crown prince to help them persuade the little crown princess? You might as well throw a sow into the sky. "Young Master Long, you don't have to be so impatient," the emperor said to him with a smile. These 2 days, the empress sent over some of the properties that originally belonged to the couple. The crown princess has not been idle these days. She has been patrolling the properties. Patrolling the properties? When could she not do so? Did she, the crown princess, have to do everything herself? Long Yin took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I wonder if you can issue a decree for us to depart tomorrow?" The great emperor looked at Long Qing with a troubled expression. "Young Lord Long, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that my son and daughter-in-law both have their own opinions. If I issue an edict without asking for the reason, it is very likely that they will throw my edict and the eunuch out of the Eastern Palace." Long Qian was speechless. "What use do I have for you? You are a fucking piece of trash. Why did this family of 4 look so hateful?" Long Shi held back his anger and returned to the guest house. He continued to stay there patiently. 3 days later, the Eastern Palace finally sent someone to look for him. The one who sent the message was a young lady whose face was even more taut than the young crown prince consorts. She had a pretty appearance of 18 or 19 years of age and was dressed in black tight-fitting clothes. She hugged her sword and said when she saw him, "We're leaving in the afternoon. Prepare the sea supplies, food, clothing, and other necessities according to this list. It's all thanks to my master. Let's see who's the real deal." With that, She unsheathed her sword and sliced a stone table in the courtyard into two halves. Long Shangyun was sitting by the table. She jumped up and screamed in shock and anger. Her finger trembled as she pointed at the girl's departing figure. Long Yun was also so angry that he almost exploded. Thinking of the purpose of this trip, he forced himself to swallow his anger. Tomorrow, I'll catch up on 2 more chapters. Chapter 42-45. Fuck, if someone kept angering him like this along the way, would he die from anger? Long Qian could not help but deeply suspect this possibility. Long Shangyun suddenly stood up from the stone stool and shouted in exasperation, "Brother, are you going to allow her to do as she pleases? Look at what has become of her. She's just a mere servant girl, and she dares to look down on us? That's not a mere servant girl." Long Qian's eyes flashed. "Her cultivation is above yours. She's a level 15 great spiritual master." Long Shangyun paused, her furious figure in a daze, and her pretty face contorted slightly. What was this? Even a little maid by his side had a higher cultivation than her. Long Shangyun. No wonder that woman was so arrogant and did not look down on her brother and her. Long Shangyun took a deep breath and could not hold back the anger in her heart. "Brother, are you really going to do as they say?" Her gaze landed on Long Qian. She saw that Long Qian was looking down at a list in his hand. Long Qian's expression was a little strange. As he looked at the list, his eyebrows could not help but twitch. "What's written?" Long Shangyun angrily walked to Long Qian's side and glanced at the list in his hand. With one look, her nose almost became crooked from anger. 3 meals a day? How could the food be different within a week? In such a short time, brother, you have to go to the city and buy everything? Wasn't this cheating? Was this cheating? Naturally, this was not cheating. The worst part was that the little crown princess daily necessities, ingredients, and so on were all designated shops for Long Qian to buy. Needless to say, these shops were definitely opened by the little crown princess herself. The prices were probably very good. Look at what's written on this list. The furnishings in the rooms in the ship, the golden silk curtains used for the beds, the fine satin blankets. Everything has to be according to their requirements and specifications. Long Shangyun was so angry that she wanted to crush the list in her hand. Long Qian's face darkened. He hurriedly snatched the list from her hand and took a deep breath. "Oh hi." Yes. A gray-robed man in his early 30s suddenly appeared beside Long Huan. "What orders do you have, young master? Take some people with you and buy all the items on this list within 2 hours. Let's go." "Yes, young master." The man cupped his fists and bowed. He immediately took the list in his hand and waved his hand to lead a group of people out to buy. Long Shangyun glared angrily at her brother. "Brother, why are you indulging her like this?" Long Huan immediately looked back at her in annoyance. "What idea do you have? The most important thing right now is to take them with us as soon as possible," Long Yun said in a low voice. "Don't cause any more trouble." Long Shangyun's beautiful face was extremely gloomy. She clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles cracked. That damn Xiaomu. One day, she would make this woman pay the corresponding price for her unruly behavior. "Shangyun." Long Huan gave her a warning look and said in a low voice, "Don't add any more trouble to the family. If it wasn't for you, why would the crown princess dislike us so much?" Long Huan warned again. "Did you hear what I said? Don't cause any more trouble." Long Shangyun bit her lips and nodded unwillingly. "I understand, brother." Chapter 42-46. Gold and red curtains were drawn, and a fragrant mist filled the air. Mu Rochuan bowed as she walked into the room. "Mother, may I know why you summoned me?" Mu Qingyao was wrapped in a moon-white robe and leaned against the edge of the brocade couch. Mu Qingyao frowned slightly when she saw her daughter's unsmiling face. Her gaze fell on the centipede-like scar on the left side of her face, and she immediately looked away. "Rochuan, pack your things and get ready to leave," Mu Qingyao said casually. Mu Rochuan was startled. "Mother, where do you plan to send me?" Mu Qingyao smiled and said, "My child, you're almost fully recovered. I can't keep you by my side all day and watch you do nothing. Others will gossip about it. Mother, feel free to tell your daughter what to do. Mu Rochuan said indifferently. Mu Qingyan nodded with a smile. Rochuan, Mother wants you to go to the Forgetful River and do something for Mother. Mu Rochuan looked up at the elegant woman in front of her. Mother, please tell me. Mu Qingya couldn't help but nod in satisfaction when she saw that Mu Rochuan's attitude was rather respectful. She raised her hand and took out a letter that she had already written and handed it to Mu Rochuan. Just do as the letter says. Mu Rochuan took the letter, lowered her head, and silently read through it. Then, she looked up at Mu Qingya in surprise. Mother, you want to capture her? Mu Qingya nodded. Mother has already thought of a few ways for you. You just have to act according to the circumstances. Mu Rochuan couldn't help but smile bitterly. Mother, I'm afraid this matter won't go as you wish. I wasn't even her match when I was at the peak of my cultivation, let alone now. Rochuan, you have too little confidence in yourself. Mu Qingya glanced at her indifferently. Mu Rochuan didn't speak for a long time. Mu Qingya sighed, stood up, and slowly walked to her side. Seeing that she was silent with her head lowered, Mu Qingya took her hand and said softly, Rochuan, do you know what your biggest weakness is right now? You lack confidence. Mu Qingya sighed. If you don't have confidence, you're no different from a salted fish. Mu Qingya raised her hand and brushed a strand of her daughter's hair behind her head. She said softly, Rochuan, the most important thing for you to do now is to build confidence. You must know that there are no absolutes in this world. You were unable to deal with her in the past, but that does not mean that you are unable to deal with her now. Furthermore, Hong Chong and He are helping you. However, Mu Rochuan did not immediately perk up under her mother's encouragement. She took a step back. Mother, I will go. Mu Qingya smiled gently and nodded. I knew Rochuan was the most sensible, but he might not be able to come back. Mu Rochuan's next words made Mu Qingya's expression tense. Mu Rochuan lowered her eyes and said with a cold expression, I will do my best. As for the chances of success, in my daughter's opinion, it's not even half. Eldest miss, you're belittling yourself too much. The yellow-clothed woman on the side couldn't help but sneer. Mu Rochuan glanced at her. Miss He, if you go with such an attitude, I advise you not to go. With your abilities, you won't last more than 3 minutes in her hands. Here's eyes suddenly widened. Chapter 42-47. If she knows our purpose, she'll make you, me, and all of us die without a burial place. Mu Qingya frowned slightly and stared at Mu Rochuan for a long time before sighing softly. My child, are you afraid of her? Mother, I was ignorant in the past. Now, I've grown up quickly under the painful lesson. How could a God Realm cultivator, an alchemy grandmaster, and a talisman grandmaster be so easy to catch? What's more, how many experts were around that person? Did they forget? You've not grown up now. You're as timid as a mouse. Here sneered again and cupped her hands at Mu Qingya. Hall Master, I'll go make preparations first. Mu Qingya nodded with a faint smile. Prepare well. Just tell Steward Kong if you need any supplies. Yes, Hall Master. He turned and left. She was very puzzled as to why the Hall Master wanted Mu Rochuan to go with them. Mu Rochuan was now a cripple. Although her body had recovered well recently, she had no spiritual power. What could she do with the team? Rochuan, you're the person I trust the most. Why would I harm you? Mu Qingya took her daughter's hand and sat down. Rochuan, I want you to use your wits, not your strength. Keep my letter well and act according to the situation. Don't worry. With me here, even if you lose your spiritual power, you won't become a cripple. As long as you take the basic mutation liquid on time, I believe that with your talent for concealment, you'll definitely be able to comprehend an extraordinary special ability. Mu Qingya handed a bag full of medicinal liquid to her daughter and looked at her with a gentle smile. She patted the back of her hand and said with a loving expression, Are you confident, Rochuan? Mu Rochuan faintly narrowed her eyes and pulled her hand out of Lin Mingya's warm grasp. She said softly, if it was Long Chiyun, she would definitely not let her biological daughter, Mu Qiao, drink such a strange liquid. Mu Qingya froze and then chuckled softly. How could that be? Every mother sincerely wants the best for their children. Mu Rochuan didn't say anything else. She stood up and bowed, then turned around and walked out. Mu Qingya stared coldly at her daughter's back and said softly, "Remember, capture her alive." Home Master. An old woman with a face full of wrinkles appeared beside Mu Qingya and said in a deep voice, "Miss, can we really use you like this?" Roxian is a smart child. She knows that she has no way out now. She has no other choice but to follow our Tianyin. Yaolan, you don't have to go this time. Let the children do it. Home Master, I know you want to avenge your sister. What happened to Huilan was truly regrettable. She's definitely dead now that she's in Mu Qiao's hands. Mu Qingya sighed, but I want you to keep an eye on the people of the Hidden Moon Hall. This matter is very urgent. Yes, Home Master. Zhang Yaolan gritted her teeth. This subordinate can wait for revenge. Mu Qingya nodded and smiled. If we're lucky, Rochuan should be able to capture him, Linchuan Pier. Long Qing stood in the wind in a white robe and watched the people of the Long family moving boxes of supplies onto the ship. Chapter 42-48. The Crown Princess's food, clothing, and other necessities were all purchased according to the list. It was actually very simple. The Dragon Clan's people only needed to bring a group of people to a shop designated by the little Crown Princess. Once they entered and informed them, the goods would be brought directly to the dock. It was obvious that the little Crown Princess had already informed the shopkeeper that everything was ready. They were just waiting for the Dragon Clan to pay for the goods. Long Shangyun looked at the boxes being moved onto the ship. She frowned deeply and could not help but take a deep breath. She looked at Long Huan, who was standing upright beside her. "Brother, they are not here yet." The veins on Long Huan's forehead twitched. He suppressed the anger in his heart that was about to explode. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. He could not get angry now. They were still standing in the territory of the Divine Land. He could not make the decision. After a phoenix's cry, everyone saw a green bird with long wings coming from afar. Prince Emo and the little Crown Princess stood on its back, hand in hand. Their clothes fluttered in the wind. Behind them was a two-winged eagle. Mu Xingqian stood with his hands behind his back. When Long Huan's gaze fell on the little Crown Princess, he was obviously relieved. No matter what, as long as the little Crown Princess was willing to return to the Forgetfulness River, his mission would be considered completed. No matter how much trouble he had gone through and how much he had suffered, all these could be ignored because of the little Crown Princess's arrival. Long Huan led a group of Dragon Clan members and bowed to the two from afar. Long Shangyun gritted her teeth. She followed her brother unwillingly and bowed as well. She needed to be patient now. Once they boarded the ship and left the Divine Land, they would arrive at the Forgetfulness River. Then, the little Crown Princess would not have the final say. Thinking of this, she took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the restless and uneasy emotions in her heart. She forced out an ugly smile. Since the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess are here, let's set off. The little Crown Princess glanced in her direction, but didn't say anything. The young Crown Princess didn't make a sound after she disembarked from Qingwan while holding the Crown Prince's hand. From afar, a few calls of Saintess could be heard. Arbor turned his head and saw Feng Heping leading Feng Zhangqing, Feng Zhangfei, and a large group of clansmen quickly walking over. "Saintess, why didn't you bring them along?" Head Elder Feng Heping said with a gloomy expression. "These are the 100 disciples selected by the Feng clan. Take them with you to the River of Forgetfulness. You can ask them to do something for you." Long Shangyun's face turned ugly. "No, why was this little Crown Princess so troublesome?" Feng Heping turned to glare at her. "Why not? Do you think our Saintess is like you? How can our Saintess not have anyone by her side to serve her when she goes out?" Feng Changqing and his brother looked at the sky speechlessly. "All right, it's decided then," Feng Heping said to himself. He glanced at Long Xiang, then turned to face Arbor with a bright smile. "Saintess, it's getting late. Let's set off." The 2,000 disciples of the Feng clan followed behind Feng Heping. They cupped their hands and said in unison, "Saintess, have a safe journey." Arbor turned to board the ship expressionlessly. Mo Yin left with his wife with a dark expression. The ship set off and slowly left the shore. Arbor stood on the deck with a stoic expression. She looked at Feng Heping leading a group of Feng clan members and waved at her with all her might. The end of this volume 2019. 720. Chapter 42-49. Great Holy Maiden, be careful. Great Holy Maiden, take care of yourself. Remember to come back early. The Feng clansman's chatter sounded in her ears. Although Arbor kept a straight face, she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Originally, she didn't tell Feng Heping about this trip because she didn't want him to cause such a big commotion. But now, looking at the Feng clansmen standing in a row along the river, they waved at her enthusiastically. Sir Jojo's face was wooden. He reluctantly raised his little paw and waved it at them from afar. Prince Mo turned to look at his wife. For some reason, he felt like laughing. Feng Changqing coughed lightly. He walked forward and said, "Great Holy Maiden, it's quite windy here. Let's go into the cabin." Arbor put down her paw and turned around. She put her hands behind her back and walked into the cabin with her back straight. Long Huan and his sister were sitting in the elegantly decorated cabin on the first floor. Seeing them enter, Long Shangyun's expression turned ugly. She had never seen such a troublesome person before. Who would bring so many guards with them when visiting someone else's home? Only this crown princess would be so troublesome. Arbor pulled Prince Mo and found 2 random seats to sit down. She asked expressionlessly, "Where is our room?" "The last room on the left on the 2nd floor. "It's your room." Long Huan's mouth twitched. "Cousin, don't worry. Everything has been arranged according to your preferences. Golden silk curtains, fine satin blankets, even a pillow and a fine-toothed comb were of high quality. Why don't you go to heaven?" Sir Jojo replied with an "oh," and didn't say anything else. Long Huan rolled his eyes inwardly. He really couldn't stand the way the little crown princess talked to others. If she was happy, she would talk to you. If she wasn't happy, she would ignore you. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Such a strange temperament. What kind of family did he come from? "Since we have nothing better to do, why don't we play Madiao?" Long Shangyun suddenly suggested. "After we enter the sea, we still need to sail for about half a month." Long Shangyun glanced at Arbor and said, "It's quite boring to be idle every day." "All right, cousin. Do you know how to play horse diao?" "I know a thing or two." The little stoic nodded his small head, looking very obedient. Mo Yin's lips twitched. Long Shangyun smiled and waved her hand. "It doesn't matter if you know a little. It's good that you know how to play. Don't worry, big brother, and I will go easy on you." Long Huan smiled and nodded. "Cousin, we're all family. Even if we lose, we can't lose to outsiders." Soon, the mahjong table was set up. Arbor, Long Xie, and Long Shangyun sat down together. Prince Mo moved a stool over and sat beside his wife. He attentively poured her tea and fanned her. When Long Shangyun saw this scene, her mouth couldn't help but twitch. "Crown Prince, don't you want to play a few rounds?" Mo Yin glanced at Long Huan impatiently. "How can I win my wife's money? It was really annoying to flaunt affection all the time, okay?" Long Huan silently shut his mouth. Then he turned and said to a guard standing beside him with a sword, "Jiang Song, come and play a few rounds with us." The guard instantly looked terrified and shook his head repeatedly. "Young master, I don't have money." Long Huan. Long Shangyun was anxious to get back at him. She clapped her hands and said, "Sit down. If we lose, you don't have to pay. Big brother will naturally pay." Long Huan. Chapter 42-50. The little crown princess cupped her fists at the 3 of them. "Thank you for letting me win." The 3 of them were speechless. "Let me win, my ass. The game hasn't even started yet." What's with her expression, as if she's sure to win? It's so depressing. Feng Changqing and his brother, who were standing behind the little crown princess, couldn't help but twitch their lips. They felt that the little crown princess's expression just now was strange and hilarious. "Wifey, you just have to perform normally." Crown Prince Mo fanned his wifey while peeling an orange with his slender, jade-like fingers. "Cousin, with your net worth, why don't we play a little bigger? How about 10 times the original amount?" Long Shangyun's smile was extremely radiant. Arbor nodded. It doesn't matter. I like it when cousin is so generous. Long Shangyun smiled and complimented her, but her hands didn't slow down at all as she played a deck of cards. Arbor drew a card expressionlessly and played a card that she didn't want. Prince Imo stuffed a piece of orange in her mouth. She chewed twice, played another round, and drew a flower. Just look at her expression. It was impossible to tell whether her cards were good or bad. She was expressionless the entire time. Mu Xingqian inspected the front and back of the boat and found that there were about 100 Dragon Clan members on the boat. The boatman had been sailing the route from the River of Forgetfulness to China all year round. It was said that he had been sailing for more than 10 years and was very experienced. You immortals. It's said that there's a transportation array that can transport you far away in a flash, right? But it can't be used at sea. The boatman's tanned face showed a simple and honest smile. There's no specific direction at sea. It's not as easy to identify as on land. If you're transported wrongly, you'll probably be lost at sea forever. That's why I've sent many immortals like you. When they go to the River of Forgetfulness, they'll come to us. Mu Xingqian chatted with the boatman for a long time. When he returned to the cabin, he saw his sister and Long Huan at the mahjong table. As soon as he stepped through the door, he heard his younger sister's cold voice in his ear. A one-colored 9-treasure lotus lantern. Thank you. 888,000 spirit coins per family. Thought. Mu Xingqian saw a guard fall from his stool and sit on the ground. Long Shangyun's hand that was holding the card trembled slightly. She put on a fake smile and said, "Cousin is really lucky. It's okay, it's okay. Let cousin win a little first." Long Shangyun continued to smile. "Jiangsong, get up quickly. Don't act like you haven't seen the world. Anyway, Big Brother will pay you if you lose. What are you panicking for?" Long Xie felt like crying. "Jojo, have some water." Emolian handed a teacup to his wife. Jojo, Sama took a sip and shuffled the deck again with the others. His movements were fluid and it was obvious that he was not a newbie. Long Shangyun secretly gritted her teeth. Her face trembled as she said, "Cousin, you don't look like a newbie. Why do you say you know a little?" "I don't know a little." Arbor nodded and said sincerely, "Not many people are willing to play with me. I've only played Horse Jiao 5 times in my life. This is the 5th time." Everyone huffed. Feng Zhangfei couldn't help but laugh. His elder brother, Feng Chongqing, glanced at him. Feng Zhangfei hurriedly stopped. If Feng Heping was here and saw that Feng Zhangfei dared to laugh at the Saintess, he would definitely use a water ladle to smash 3 big bumps on his head. Chapter 42-51. Half an hour later, Long Shangyun's cold sweat dripped down from her head, and she couldn't help but fall to the ground. In such a short period of time, she lost 13 rounds in a row. The little crown princess played 13 rounds in a row, all of which were the same color, the same color, the same color, the same color, and the same color. Long Qian's face was somewhat numb as he played. The 14th round, the same color, the same color. The 15th round, the same color, the same color. The 16th round, ha ha ha. Long Shangyun's forehead was covered in cold sweat, and she suddenly raised her hand to support her forehead. Brother, I feel a bit dizzy. I want to go rest first. Why don't you find someone else to play?" Long Qian hurriedly stood up and pretended to support his younger sister. "Shangyun, are you all right? Maybe it's because the weather is too hot. The sea will be even hotter." "We haven't even entered the sea yet," Arbor said lightly. Long Qian laughed dryly and continued. "Then, Crown Princess, I'll help Shangyun back to her room to rest first. Don't you plan on leaving after paying the spirit coins?" Long Qian's back stiffened. "We played 19 rounds just now, so the total is 16872,000 spirit coins per person. Leave after paying the bill. This Crown Princess doesn't like people owing me money." Long Qian stiffly turned around and said to the young Crown Prince Consort, You, why you? But aren't you very good at playing cards?" How could she have the face to say that she only knows a bit? The little Crown Princess had a puzzled expression. "I only know a bit." She only knew how to play cards, so how could she not know a bit? She didn't even know how to play Ping Hu, and she had always complained about it to her mother. Emolien, who was sitting on the side, was about to die from laughter. Just now, he had been sitting next to his wife and watching her play cards. It was simply a visual pleasure. His wife was like a little monster, getting whatever she wanted and getting whatever she wanted. Her 9 treasures lotus lantern seemed like a gift from the heavens, as expected of a relative of the Tendo family. Prince Imo thought to himself. Long Yin took a deep breath. All right, like a martyr, he took out several spirit coin cards from his pocket and tossed them all to Chiao Mu. There should be 51 million spirit coins in total. Arbor nodded and put the card in his pocket. He asked casually, "Are you still playing tomorrow?" "Play your ancestors." Long Huan left in a huff. Not only was he cursing Arbor in his heart, he was also cursing his own sister, Long Shangyun. If it wasn't for the brainless Long Shangyun who suggested that she was bored and wanted to play with Arbor, would they have lost so miserably? Wasn't this too tragic? Long Shangyun put on a long face. "Brother, I originally wanted her to lose more money to make up for the purchasing fees she cheated you out of this afternoon. Who would have thought that he would be tricked by the little crown princess again?" Long Shangyun gritted her teeth. "She's too good at pretending. I really thought she was a newbie who knew a thing or two." "Who knew? Shut up." Long Huan angrily glared at Long Shangyun. "I'm warning you. From tomorrow onwards, don't go provoking her." He could tell that every time Long Shangyun went to provoke the little crown princess, she wouldn't have a good ending. Speaking of which, it was always his sister, Long Shangyun, who suffered losses. Why couldn't this idiot learn from his mistakes? Long Shangyun had been bullied since a few days ago, and now she was being scolded by her brother, who always loved her. She couldn't help but cry. Chapter 42-52. Long Qian couldn't bear to see his sister like this, so he wrapped his arms around her shoulders and comforted quietly. "All right, Shangyun, Big Brother isn't blaming you. I just hope you grow some brains in the future and don't provoke her again. We'll talk about everything after we return to the River of Forgetfulness and see Mother." Long Shangyun bit her lip and said aggrievedly while shedding tears, "Mother will definitely help me deal with her." "All right." Long Qian patted her shoulder. "You've also been on tenterhooks for so many days. It's been hard on you. Everything is going smoothly now. Have a good rest today and don't think too much." Long Shangyun nodded. On the other side, the little stoic transferred the money in Long Qian's spirit coin card to her own spirit coin card, feeling a bit stifled. What's wrong with them? These people were all quite strange. They were the ones who challenged her to a horse fight every time. But they were also the ones who fled in defeat every time. They definitely won't be willing to continue playing with me tomorrow. Whoever plays with you will be unlucky. Feng Zhongfei couldn't help but ridicule inwardly. "What should we do tomorrow?" "Jojo." Mu Xingqian walked toward her with a smile, holding a lively fish in his hand. "Want a roast fish?" The next day, when Long Qian and his sister arrived on the deck, they saw that the little stoic and the others had already eaten an extremely exquisite breakfast. She had Long Qian purchase all the ingredients and store them in ice to keep them fresh. Kai-Dai Veranda's products naturally wouldn't disappoint, but the kitchen maid's culinary skills were passable. However, they were currently floating on the sea, so everything could only be simplified. The stoic man's motto was to eat and use Long Qian's food. Since Long Qian was the one who invited them to the River of Forgetfulness, then he naturally had to pay for the expenses. Don't expect Sir Jojo to pay for it. Long Qian couldn't help but feel his balls ache when he saw their contented appearances. What was even more painful was that the little stoic brought 100 Feng clansmen with her. Originally, she only needed to pay for a few people's meals, but now she had to be responsible for more than 100 people originally. The ingredients they purchased were enough for all of them to eat until the River of Forgetfulness, but now they freaking had to resupply midway. Long Qian felt a bit sorry for himself when he saw the ingredients being used up and spirit coins flowing out every day. Even if he had money, yesterday's meal had basically used up all his money. "Young master." A servant of the Dragon Clan invited Long Qian and his sister to take a seat and serve them breakfast and snacks. The little stoic, Prince Imo, Mu Xingqian, and the Feng Changqing brothers were seated at the original square table. After adding another seat for Long Huan and his sister, it became a little crowded. Long Huan smiled and said, "You are all up early. Are you not used to sleeping on the sea?" Mu Xingqian said indifferently, "It's all right. We will cross the river and enter the sea at this time tomorrow. When the time comes, the sailing speed will be faster. If the weather is good, we can enjoy the seascape along the way." Their two-story ship was exquisitely built with carved beams and jade pillars, and the rooms on the second floor had all been redecorated. Therefore, as long as they didn't encounter any particularly violent weather, even if they were to float on the sea for half a month, they would still be as comfortable as at home. "Thank you, young Master Long," Mu Xingqian said politely. Long Qian said with a smile, "We're siblings, so there's no need to be so courteous." As they spoke, they heard clanking on the surface of the river. Everyone looked over and saw a skiff bobbing up and down on the river, drifting with the current. Chapter 42-53. A person was sitting at the bow of the skiff with his back facing them. From the back, his white robes and long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like an elegant young sir. The sound of a zither flowed along with the river water, approaching from afar. The little stoic glanced curiously in that direction, her eyes revealing traces of vigilance. Which elegant young sir with a normal brain would go with the flow and play the zither in this boundless river? With such a small boat, a slightly bigger wave would immediately capsize it. What elegance could a drowned rat have? Long Huan's eyes flickered as he gazed at the back of the figure on the skiff. He said with a smile, "Truly an interesting brother. Cousin, do you think we should invite him to sit on the boat?" The little crown princess turned to look at him, revealing a treacherous expression that seemed to want to say something but hesitated. As Long Huan held his teacup, a strange thought instantly surfaced in his mind. Why did he feel like his cousin's gaze was so abnormal? Feng Zhangfei's lips twitched, and he looked at Long Huan sympathetically. He felt that with the little lady's abnormally vile and bewitching personality, this young Master Long was probably going to be in trouble again. "Cousin, there's no harm in speaking frankly. You like men?" As the little lady spoke, she even shifted her stool and squeezed closer to her husband, her small hand involuntarily reaching out to protect him. Emolien, Long Huan. Right now, his mental activity was, "Why can't I freaking slap this little stoic to death? What nonsense are you spouting?" Long Shangyun was enraged. "How can you slander my brother like this?" The little stoic extended 2 fingers, drawing an arc with her gaze. "Just now, you kept looking at the man on the skiff with a strange gaze. Is it admiration?" "Everyone." Long Huan's face twitched harshly. "Cousin, you're thinking too much. I'm not interested in men." Feng Zhangfei glanced at Long Huan sympathetically. This young Master Long was truly a bit pitiful. The little stoic glanced at Long Huan expressionlessly. She sat up straight and put down her small hand blocking her husband's path, saying coldly, "Then you want to invite him to sit on the bed?" "Pooh!" Feng Zhangfei spat out a mouthful of tea. Feng Zhangqing laughed silently. He quickly took a piece of cloth and wiped his brother's sleeves. Long Qi was so angry that his finger trembled slightly. He lifted his finger to point in the little stoic's direction, and his handsome face turned dark red. She was clearly doing it on purpose. What the hell was she talking about? Emolien was secretly amused and pursed her lips. The little guy's expressionless face was a little cute as he entertained others. The little stoic abruptly stood up. Just as Long Huan's nerves were stretched taut, she grabbed Long Shangyun, who was beside him, and stood up. Her movements were smooth and swift as she swung her small arm and flung Long Shangyun away. "Ask your sister to invite him." Long Shangyun's eyes were round as saucers, and she was flung away by the little stoic without warning. Her entire person flew through the air, over the ship's railing, and plummeted towards the bottom of the surging river. Shangyun. Long Shi jumped up and rushed to the railing to take a look. He saw that the little stoic's throw was so precise that she directly flung his sister, Long Shangyun, onto that undulating skiff. She happened to be standing at the bow of the boat. Long Shangyun wasn't completely useless. Her body swayed left and right before she immediately steadied herself. She looked down and saw that the man in white was still playing the zither with downcast eyes, as if he was completely unaware that there was a young lady in front of him. Chapter 42-54. Shang Yun, come back quickly. Long Yun was very anxious. He didn't care too much and immediately shouted. Long Shang Yun steadied her emotions. She stood on the bow of the boat and gently rocked along with the river. The pink dress accentuated her beautiful face. Long Shang Yun held a long sword horizontally in her hand and looked at the man with vigilance. She didn't expect this man to look so handsome from the back, but when she looked at him from the front, she could only see that his mud-colored pants were tattered. When she looked closer, she could see that his hair was also tangled, as if it hadn't been washed in a long time. The man placed a guqin on his knees. Under his long sleeves, several dark fingers were dancing. The head of the guqin had been damaged long ago, and two of its strings were broken. It looked a bit strange. In this place where the river was surging and the boundaries couldn't be seen, a young master in tattered clothes was playing a guqin that was about to break. Strange, very strange. Long Shangyun heard her brother shout and was about to fly away from the bow. The man who had been quietly playing the guqin with his head lowered suddenly looked up. Long Shangyun exchanged a glance with him and cried out in horror. This person only had two empty holes left in his eyes. At this moment, he was looking at her faintly. A pair of ghost hands that looked like chicken claws came out of his tattered white sleeves and suddenly attacked her. Long Shangyun was shocked, angry, and frightened. She hurriedly flew up half a meter and slashed the long sword in her hand at the man's ghost claws. White light flashed. The man retracted his hand, but his movements were extremely fast. When he was in midair, he suddenly pulled the strings and played the divine song of death. The music was noisy and disturbed people's emotions. Long Shangyun's chest felt stuffy from the chaotic plucking. She couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. It's getting more and more perfect. A second-rank special-grade zombie. Arbor muttered to himself. Not only does it look no different from a human from a distance, but it also has innate talent and guqin skills. Its special music can cause people's emotions to become chaotic and their conscience to shake. Compared to the 18th sister and Wei Mingli he saw before, this zombie seemed to be much stronger. Long Huan turned his head upon hearing this and glared hatefully at Xiao Mu. You already knew that person was a zombie? Why did you? Arbor glanced at him coldly. Didn't young Master Long also want to trick us? Long, she choked on her indifferent words. Previously, he indeed had the mood of watching a joke and wanted to see the little Stoics group suffer a setback. With his experience, he was naturally able to immediately tell that the thing on the small boat was no ordinary person. Long Yin wanted to wait for the Stoic face and the others to be unable to deal with this zombie before he stepped in to help. As a result, no matter how unhappy the little Stoic was, it wouldn't be good for her to lash out at her savior. It was a pity that the Stoic face saw through her beautiful imagination. Not only did he see through it, he even tricked his younger sister, Long Shangyun. What kind of nonsense was this? He didn't want to say another word to the Stoic face. He could see that as long as he had crooked thoughts, the Stoic face might not do anything to him, but he would definitely teach his younger sister a lesson and let Shangyun continue to be unlucky. Long Yun was alarmed and furious on the inside. He hastily waved his hand and shouted, "Someone come quickly and help the second Miss return." Several dozen Long clan members on the large boat exploded into action and swiftly pounced in the direction of the small boat. They stabbed their swords at the zombie that was sitting cross-legged in midair and randomly playing the guqin. Clang, clang, clang. Several guqin notes vibrated. Chapter 42-55. One of the Dragon Clan clansmen was caught off guard, and his sea of consciousness was injured by the zither music. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the river. In the blink of an eye, a red-eyed sword fong fish that was about 10 feet long suddenly drilled out of the river. It caught the cultivator in its mouth and chewed twice. In less than a few seconds, It had broken off a perfectly fine cultivator and swallowed him. Ah! Long Shangyun saw this scene at close range and was almost scared out of her wits. She let out a sharp scream. Long Qian heard her scream and couldn't help but feel anxious. Without caring too much, he jumped out of the boat and flew towards his sister. Long Qian rushed to Long Shangyun's side and grabbed his sister's waist. He shouted, "Concentrate your spiritual energy and attack the corpse puppet's head." Dozens of Dragon Clan clansmen reached out and touched their long swords. Their spiritual energy shone brightly. Dozens of 5 spirits' power were released from the various spirit weapons in the hands of the Dragon Clan clansmen and attacked the zither-playing corpse puppet's head. Roar! The zither-playing corpse puppet raised its 2 hollow eyes and let out a thunderous roar at the dozens of Dragon Clan clansmen. The river water suddenly became turbulent, and a whirlpool formed in the middle of the river, rolling and rotating. Long Qian shouted angrily, "Be careful of this corpse puppet. It's gathering the mutated corpse fish in the river nearby." Bang, bang, bang. A few figures were blown away by the corpse puppet's roar. They supported each other and stabilized their bodies with great difficulty, so they didn't fall into the river. Dozens of red-eyed sword-fang fish suddenly jumped out of the whirlpool. Each of them was about 3 meters long and half as tall as a person. They bit at the people's ankles. "Rise! Rise!" Long Qian shouted sharply. All the Dragon Clan clansmen's faces changed. They raised their chi and rushed up. 2 of them were a bit slower and were bitten by the red-eyed sword-fang fish. They felt a heart-wrenching pain in their ankles. Their blood flowed backward. With a scream, they were dragged into the river and eaten by the sword-fang fish. Long Qian's face was extremely ugly. He flew back a few meters with Long Shangyun and quickly dragged her back to the boat. Roar! The zither-playing corpse puppet seemed to be completely enraged. It suddenly stretched out its ghostly claw and swept the zither strings. After a few clangs, more than 10 invisible white lights attacked Long Qian and Long Shangyun from behind. Qiao Mu leaned against the railing and watched them fight with each other, her small, pale face expressionless. Long Qian could already see the ships railing in front of him, but a strong gust of wind came from behind him, preventing him from moving forward. The only thing he could do was to push his younger sister, Long Shangyun, forward. Then, he turned around and quickly activated his defensive spirit artifact to block the attacks. The zither-playing corpse puppet's cultivation had broken through to the god realm. As soon as Long Yun exchanged blows with him, he felt that something was wrong. This corpse puppet was too powerful. Even he was no match for the corpse puppet. The moment the defensive barrier was activated, it was broken by the other party. With a cracking sound, the defensive barrier in front of him was instantly shattered by the corpse puppet. Roar! The zither-playing corpse puppet seemed to have locked onto him. Its figure flashed and appeared in front of Long Huan. Its pitch-black claws grabbed at Long Huan's neck. If the corpse puppet grabbed him, his neck would be fine. Not to mention, his body would definitely be poisoned by the corpse poison. "Brother!" Long Shangyun rushed to the railing and shouted, "Hurry, hurry, and save brother. Go and save brother." Chapter 42-56. The rest of the members of the dragon family who stayed on the ship hurriedly jumped over the railing and rushed towards Long Qing to surround him. Long Shangyun gripped the railing tightly and screamed at Long Hua, watch out, brother! All of you, be careful and protect young master." Under the combined defense of the Dragon Clan members, the zither-playing corpse puppet's attack was blocked by them. A few Dragon Clan members protected Long Hua and retreated to the ship. "Brother!" Long Shangyun jumped into Long Hua's arms and cried in shock and fright. "Are you okay, brother?" Long Hua's face was slightly pale. He shook his head slightly at his sister and then turned to look at Arbor, who was sitting calmly at the table. Like an enraged leopard, Long Shangyun abruptly pounced in Xiao Mu's direction and swung her fist at Xiao Mu's face without any explanation. "Do you have any sense of propriety when joking? You can't play around with this kind of thing, ah?" Before Long Shangyun could get close, Arbor whipped her away. "Shangyun, Long Hua hurriedly had two Dragon Clan members grab Long Shangyun. The two Dragon Clan members supported Long Shangyun on both sides and barely steadied themselves before glaring angrily in Arbor's direction. Arbor grabbed Mu Xingchen's hand and looked in Long Shangyun's direction. He said coldly, "You want to die?" Long Shangyun's eyes were red with anger. She pointed at Arbor and said angrily, What kind of woman was this? Cold and heartless, heartless and heartless. The siblings had treated them to good food and drinks along the way. How many spirit coins had they spent for this woman? However, the other party didn't appreciate it at all. Just now, they even threw her to the corpse puppet, causing her to almost die. Arbor snorted and turned to look at Long Hua. His eyes flashed with a demonic light. "Young Master Long, I advise you not to play tricks with me. I have 10,000 ways to make your sister beg for death. You could try them one by one." Long Hua's heart went cold. He hurriedly went forward and grabbed the furious Long Shangyun. "Cousin, you misunderstood." "I misunderstood?" Arbor glanced at the siblings as if they were idiots. "You're an expert in the sea. How could you not know whether the visitor is a human or a ghost?" "Long Shangyun, I'm not joking with you. I'm Arbor, and I never joke." Arbor looked coldly at Long Shangyun, who was about to go crazy, and said word by word, "I wanted you to die just now, so I threw you out. Didn't your brother want to screw me over? I'll screw you over first. Let's see who dies first." "You." She hurriedly grabbed Long Shangyun, who was so angry that she wanted to rush up again. Long Huan looked at Arbor deeply and took a deep breath. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have used that corpse puppet to joke with my cousin. It's good that you know." Arbor looked at him coldly, then turned and left. Long Shangyun shrieked, "Where are you going?" Once this woman left, Prince Mo and the others naturally followed. Were they going to let the Dragon Clan members deal with the zither-playing corpse puppet alone? Didn't they need to do anything? Long Huan grabbed his sister's hand tightly, stopping her from rushing over and humiliating herself again. Taking a deep breath, Long Huan lowered his voice and said to the Dragon Clan members, "Everyone gather and deal with the corpse puppet." Chapter 42:57. Thump, 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 thump. Knocking sounds came from around the ship. A few boatmen ran up sweating profusely and hurriedly said to Long Huan, young Lord, it's bad. We don't know what's at the bottom of the ship, but it's digging at the deck. If it's penetrated, the lower cabin will leak. The entire ship might not survive." Long Huan was shocked. It's the sword fong fish. In this vast water, if the ship was penetrated, they could only fly. However, it was hard to tell directions on the sea. If they flew in the wrong direction and had to start all over again, it would be troublesome. Moreover, even the strongest flying spirit beast couldn't fly for more than 10 days without stopping. However, they couldn't stop on the water unless they encountered a small island. According to his experience, the nearest ferry would only arrive tomorrow night. If they changed ships there, if they were lucky, they could buy a ship immediately. If they were unlucky, they would have to wait. Jiang Song, take 10 people down and guard the bottom of the ship. Do your best to get rid of those sword fong fish. Yes, Ao Hai, come with me to meet the Crown Princess and the rest. Long Huan took a deep breath and closed his eyes tiredly. There were still so many days left on this trip. If he didn't build a good relationship with the little Crown Princess, the journey would be very difficult. It was also his fault. He knew that the little Crown Princess was someone who couldn't tolerate sand in her eyes, but he had to use the corpse puppet to test her. In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. He almost lost his sister's life. Long Huan brought Ao Hai to the second floor of the ship and knocked on the door of the little Crown Princess's room. It was Mu Xingchen who opened the door. Long Huan was slightly startled and exchanged glances with Mu Xingchen. When he walked in, he saw that the Feng brothers were also drinking tea in the room. The little Crown Princess was sitting by the window, propping up her chin as she stared at the surging river outside. She didn't even turn her head when she heard Long Huan enter. Long Huan cupped his hands at everyone. "Everyone is here. What's the matter, young Lord Long?" Mo Lien raised her brows slightly and looked at the person in front of her with a half smile. Actually, how could they not know why Long Huan was here at this time? However, he should have the attitude of asking for help. Hearing Long Huan say it personally, he felt more at ease. Long Huan was a little embarrassed, but he was a flexible person. After cupping his hands at Crown Prince Mo and the others, Long Ji explained with a smile, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, everyone, the current situation is rather urgent. Mutated swordfang fish have gathered below the ship's hold outside, so we need your help. Of course, I've already sent my clansmen to clean them up. However, there are too many swordfang fish. I'm afraid they won't be able to handle it. If we can get the help of the brothers of the Phoenix clan, this matter should be easier to resolve. Also, the Zith are playing corpse puppet outside." Long Huan smiled bitterly. "You should have seen it just now. This corpse puppet's level is extremely high. Without your help, we wouldn't have been able to handle it. I hope—" Long Huan cupped his hands awkwardly at the others. "Please help me." Mu Xingqian glanced at him indifferently. "Young Master Long is too polite. It's our duty. After all, we're also on this ship. It's our duty to help. However, can young Master Long guarantee that your clansmen won't backstab others?" Mu Xingqian said indifferently. "We don't want to have to deal with our companions behind us when we help." Chapter 4258. Long Huan's expression froze. "Cousin, you're overthinking things. How could our Long clan do such a thing?" "That's not necessarily true," Xiao Mu said apathetically. "Haven't you done enough backstabbing and entrapping?" Long Huan suppressed his anger and took a deep breath. He cupped his hands at Arbor. "Cousin was in the wrong just now. I shouldn't have joked about the corpse puppet with Cousin. I promise I won't do it again." Arbor tilted his head and continued to support his chin, watching the river. Long Huan was a bit nervous. He thought this cousin of his didn't like him and didn't want others to help. Mu Xingqian walked out. "Why are you still standing here? Why aren't you leaving?" Long Huan was overjoyed and hurried to follow. He turned back and saw Feng Chongqing and Mu Xingqian following him. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. Long Huan couldn't see through the cultivation realms of these two Phoenix clansmen and Prince Mo. He had a feeling that these three people's realms were above his. Arbor watched them leave and frowned. Can Big Brother and the others handle it? A few mutated swordfang fish. What can't they handle? Emolian walked to his wife. "There's so many people in the Phoenix clan. If they can't even handle these small swordfang fish, then just throw them away. What's the use of bringing them? They're burdensome, useless, and a waste of food." Arbor blinked and patted Prince Mo's head. "You're always thinking about sending the Phoenix clan away. Too many people won't help." Emolian curled her lips with a disdainful expression. Soon, the two heard fierce, thumping sounds from below the cabin. Looking down from the window, they could see water splashing on both sides. Suddenly, a swordfang fish jumped up and stuck close to Arbor's window, as if it wanted to jump in and bite Arbor's arm. Emolian didn't even lift her eyes. With a move of her finger, a cluster of black flames silently roasted over, roasting the swordfang fish into pieces in a matter of minutes. The fish have mutated. Arbor was worried. "I wonder how many things have mutated in this river." Prince Mo wasn't wrong at all. Compared to the land, the situation in the sea seemed to be worse. "Don't worry, Jojo. It's just natural selection." Emolian put his arm around his wife's shoulder and comforted her softly. "Since there are mutated fish, according to the laws of heaven and earth, there will naturally be stronger species that can fight against these mutated fish. Tian Yun's medicine has transformed some people into corpse puppets, but the others have comprehended special abilities. Rivers and lakes can be proved by the same principle. All living things will follow the rules. You don't have to worry too much." He was worried that his wife would worry about everything. Arbor looked up at him and nodded in amusement. "I don't worry too much. I can't manage too many things. Just stay true to your heart and do your best. Don't force anything. It seems to be quieter. Let's go out and take a look." Emolian held her little hand, and the two walked out of the cabin together. The dim red color on the horizon was reflected in the river water, revealing a faint scarlet color. The Zither playing corpse puppet was nowhere to be seen. A dozen or so Dragon Clan members were cleaning up the messy deck. Several boatmen hurriedly ran up to Long Huan and shouted, Young master, the bottom cabin is leaking. Chapter 42:59. Hurry and see if it can be repaired. Long Huan was irritated and followed several boatmen to the bottom cabin. Along the way, he saw the little crown princess, and Prince Mo. Long Huan paused and nodded at them. Cousin, your highness the crown prince, water is seeping into the bottom cabin. I'll go down and take a look first. The little stoic pulled her husband to the side and made way for Long Huan to pass through. After Long Huan hastily led them down, the two people stood on the deck for a while. They gazed at the river in the distance. Under the setting sun's illumination, it appeared a bit bewitching red. Perhaps it was because of the battle just now that the nearby river was dyed red. Feng Chanqing quickly walked over. I'm afraid this ship won't last until the next dock. The ship was already in trouble before entering the sea. In the Feng clan's opinion, the Forgotten River Dragon clan's ability to handle matters was truly lacking. Where's that harp-stroking zombie? It escaped by diving into the water, Feng Chanqing replied. The little stoic uttered an "oh." Then they probably won't last until night. They'll probably be drifting on the river tonight. Feng Chanqing couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He really wanted to tell the stoic girl, we're also in the same boat right now. If others go into the water, we won't fare any better. However, when he saw the little crown princess's calm and disapproving expression, Feng Chanqing decided it was better to keep his mouth shut, so as to avoid saying the wrong thing and being rebuked by the little fellow until he doubted his life. Yin glanced at him and consciously pulled his wife closer to him. He asked with a taut face, how's the situation with the sword-toothed fish? The sword-toothed fish that gathered just now have been completely cleaned up. Feng Chanqing said, I just don't know if such a big commotion will attract more mutated fish in the nearby river. It will. The little crown princess answered him coherently. The two men couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Inform them to prepare for battle, the little stoic said seriously. That cultured zombie will probably come again. Cultured zombie? Feng Zhangqing and Mo. Yin looked at each other and asked with their eyes, Saint Lady, are you serious? Prince Mo glanced at him and gave him a look that said, figure it out yourself. The two of them held hands and strolled back to their room to rest. They did not care whether Long Huan was badly battered by the water leak or not. When it was time for dinner, Mu Xingqian, Feng Zhangqing, and Feng Zhangfei returned. When they saw the two of them, they shook their heads and said, the water in the lower cabin is very serious. It can't be repaired. I estimate that the ship will sink in at most an hour. Sir Jojo frowned. What are Long Huan and the others doing? He's still repairing the lower deck. Oh, then let's eat first. Xiao Mu calmly took out a lunchbox and started rummaging through it, taking out 4 to 5 plates of piping hot dishes. Do you want some wine? Feng Chanqing and his brother stared dumbfoundedly at their holy maiden, unable to speak for a long time. At this freaking time, her holy maiden was actually asking them if they wanted to drink wine. If you don't want to drink, then hurry up and eat. Feng Zhangfei's mouth twitched. Weren't everyone present in the god realm or above? Did they need to eat 3 meals a day like mortals? Prince Mo swept the 3 of them a glance. Feng Chanqing and the other 2 sat down resignedly. My master said that humans are made of iron and rice is made of steel. If you don't eat, you'll starve. No matter how high your cultivation is, you still have to eat. They nodded like chicks pecking at rice. Chapter 42:60. Your Majesty, you're right. When Long Qian rushed in to look for them, this was the heartwarming scene he saw. He felt inexplicably sorrowful and speechless. Feng Chanqing and his brother held their bowls of rice and turned to look at Long Qian. They saw that the originally handsome young master in white was now covered in dirt. A trace of sympathy rose in their hearts. The Wangchuan Dragon clan seemed to be a little pitiful. You actually still have the mood to eat here. Long Shangyun squeezed in from behind Long Qian and shouted in exasperation. Long Qian hurriedly raised his hand to grab her and quickly walked in. He cupped his hands at Arbor and the others. Your Highness, cousin, I'm afraid this ship won't last for long. We bought a lot of supplies on the ship and need to install them. I wonder if cousin has a free storage talisman to store the supplies on the ship? These resources were all things that they had bought with real money, especially the furnishings in the little crown princess room. The gilded copper incense burner, the gold-threaded Phoebe Genon wood table, and the weeping silk quilt. These had to be installed. Long Qian felt a little bitter. There was still half a month's journey before they reached Wangchuan. They had to continue living on a tight budget. The little crown princess happened to have finished eating. She glanced at him and did not make things difficult for him. She pulled her husband up silently and followed Long Qian out. When they reached the door of the cargo hold, the little crown princess took out an empty storage talisman and stored all the supplies in the cargo hold into it. Long Shangyun heaved a sigh of relief and naturally reached out her hand to the little crown princess. However, the little crown princess ignored her from beginning to end. After storing the supplies, she put the jade talisman into her inner world. Long Shangyun almost exploded on the spot. Crown princess, what do you mean by this? I'll give you the supplies after we change to a new ship. Xiao Mu rebuked Long Shangyun expressionlessly. You didn't think that I would give you a storage talisman for free in addition to helping you? May I ask where your shame is? Where's your shame? Long Shangyun was so angry that she couldn't speak. The experience of past tragedies told Long Shangyun that it was best not to refute the little crown princess at this time. Otherwise, she might get beaten up again. This crown princess was simply an evil little demon. She would immediately draw her sword and brandish her fists when she couldn't even finish a sentence with you. Why don't you give it a try? The little crown princess will definitely beat you up until you start doubting your life. They're baffling. The little stoic looked up at Mo Lien. Prince Mo laughed as he nodded. He pulled his wife's hand and walked out. Young Master Long, I hope you don't forget that we are only here to help you. It doesn't matter if you don't help. What a joke. Didn't Long Huan run in himself and ask them to use the storage talisman to collect the supplies on the ship? He had a lot of demands, and he even wanted his wife to hand over the storage talisman. It was really baffling. Long Huan smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. Yes, please continue to help me collect the goods on the ship. Don't forget about the things in your rooms. Those were all money. Long Huan's heart was very dismal. He kept feeling that he was truly lowly enough serving this young couple on this journey. Return to the river of forgetfulness. Return to the river of forgetfulness. Return to the river of forgetfulness. Everything will be fine. Long Huan reminded himself in his mind and silently swallowed his bitterness. Chapter 42:61. Long Huan reached out and tightly grasped Long Shangyun's wrist, afraid that his sister would go mad from anger and not be able to hold back from making things difficult for the young crown prince consort. After a few times, the brother and sister were very clear that there seemed to be absolutely no benefit in clashing with the stoic-faced crown prince consort. Big brother. Long Shangyun was so angry that she wanted to cry. She had never seen such a vile person. Long Shangyun felt that if she continued to interact with a young crown princess like this, the latter would drive her crazy sooner or later. Why don't we go our separate ways? Big brother. Long Shangyun's anger had yet to dissipate. No. Long Huan shook his head. He didn't want to go their separate ways from the young crown princess since she was so difficult to get along with. However, the problem was that he had to ensure that the young crown princess would not turn back midway and reach the river of forgetfulness safely. Bear with it for a while, Shangyun. Long Huan knew that his sister had been spoiled by her family since she was young. She had suffered too much at the hands of the crown princess these few days, and his heart ached for her. However, in order to successfully complete this mission, she did not mind suffering a little. Long Huan took a deep breath and said, "Your cousin has an eccentric personality and doesn't play by the rules. Just keep your distance from her. With her quiet personality, if you ignore her, she won't take the initiative to find trouble with you. Why do I have to accommodate her in everything?" Long Shangyun was furious and almost flew into a rage. What cousin? I won't acknowledge her identity. I don't know how Long Chuyun raised her daughter to have such an unruly and disorderly thing. Shangyun. Long Huan hastily covered her mouth in fright and looked around with a guilty conscience. Seeing that there was no one else around, he sighed in relief. If the Crown Prince Consort had heard those words just now, she would definitely have taught Xiangyun a lesson. There was no doubt about that. All right, let's go and get ready. Later, we'll summon your flying bat. We'll rush to the nearest ferry and change boats first. But we're in such a hurry. Is it so easy to change boats? Long Huan sighed. Let's take it one step at a time. Right now, he was also extremely anxious. Truly, the road to happiness was strewn with setbacks. If he wanted to bring the Crown Princess back to the River of Forgetfulness, why was it so difficult? After the little Crown Princess looted everything in the room, she followed the 100 people from the Phoenix clan to the deck. At this time, the water on the lower deck had gradually spread to the deck, and the whole hull was tilting to one side. The ship is sinking. Long Shi turned to look at his sister, Long Xiangyun. Xiangyun, summon the flying bats. Yes, big brother. Long Xiangyun waved her hand. An enormous bat that blended into the night appeared before everyone. Go! Long Yun waved his hand, and the Dragon Clan clansmen carried the boatman and jumped onto the back of the flying bats. Brother, come up quickly. Long Xiangyun stood on the back of the flying bat and looked down at Arbor's group on the deck. She snorted. Long Huan cut open a few partitions in the cabin and quickly placed them into his inner world. If his inner world wasn't so small, he would have placed a few more partitions. Hearing Long Xiangyun's voice, Long Huan agreed. He then glanced in the young Crown Prince Consort's direction. Seeing that they were still standing motionlessly on the puddles of water on the deck, he warned with a frown, Cousin, the ship is about to topple over. You should also quickly summon your flying beasts and follow us to the nearest ferry. There's no need for you to worry. Chapter 4263. Against the backdrop of the flames, thick smoke billowed up as if the river water had been ignited and boiled. The momentum was a little frightening. Arbor's small face was expressionless. He looked down coldly at the balls of sword-fang fish that were smashed into smithereens. His eyes revealed a trace of disdain. Despicable means, she said coldly. Then she took out a glassy sealing ball and threw it into the surging river. Feng Zhangqing and the others were shocked by the little girl's divine powerball. At this time, seeing her throw out another thing, they all held their breaths, waiting for a huge shock. The sealing ball fell, and a 3-story ship slid out from it, instantly falling into the river. Waves surged up as the ship surged forward. My God! Feng Zhangfei couldn't help but exclaim, a ship! Scarlet firmament waves. Obviously, Feng Zhangqing's eyesight was much better than his younger brother Feng Zhangfei's. This sentence hit the nail on the head, and the group of Feng clansmen immediately opened their eyes wide, scrambling to look at the ship. Let's go. Arbor waved her hand, and everyone immediately followed the little Crown Princess and flew to the big ship. It's really tiring to be tossed around in the middle of the night. The little Crown Princess stood on the deck and turned to look at everyone expressionlessly. Everyone, wash up and go to bed early. The rooms on the second floor are up to you. With that, she took her husband's slender fingers and pulled him to the 3rd floor. Leaving behind a group of curious Feng clansmen, they touched and looked around excitedly for a long time. They couldn't help but surround Feng Zhangqing and ask about the scarlet firmament waves. Early the next morning, after a night's rest, the Feng clansmen came to the deck refreshed. Only then did they realize that the sun had already risen from the east, and the morning glow sprinkled on the river water, evolving into a magnificent color. Xiao Mu and Emolian were currently eating breakfast with Mu Xingchen, so they greeted everyone when they saw them arrive. This scarlet firmament waves is really powerful. I didn't feel any bumps all night. I slept really well. Yeah, after a night's rest, I'm full of energy today. Not to mention that the scarlet firmament blue waves had been operating steadily for an entire night. They didn't have to worry about being attacked at all. The entire Crimson Nimbus Blue wave ship was a top-grade defensive Saint artifact. As long as they didn't mobilize all the corpse fish in the sea to attack, the hundreds and thousands of fish schools wouldn't pose any threat at all. Breakfast was simple, consisting of meat buns and porridge. Although no one was hungry, it seemed that after following the little crown princess, they had inexplicably developed the habit of eating 3 meals a day. Since they had nothing else to do, everyone had a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns to eat by themselves. It's the nearest ferry port. With this speed, we'll probably arrive at noon, the little stoic said expressionlessly to everyone. I wonder how young Master Long and the others are doing now. Feng Zhangfei took a bite of the bun and suddenly asked, "By the way, did it rain last night?" It rained for most of the night, but the rain wasn't heavy. However, if young Master Long and the others rode the flying bat, it probably wouldn't be very comfortable, Feng Zhangqing said faintly. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Clan leader Feng's words were too fucking subtle. What wouldn't it be very comfortable? It would simply be extremely unlucky, all right? It was now August, and the weather was abnormally hot. The river breeze brushed their faces, but it felt stuffy and hot. Chapter 4264. Although it was only 7 in the morning, when the sun rose, heat radiated in all directions, and the temperature of the river rose a lot. The little crown princess pulled out 4 water spirit talismans from her pocket with a wooden expression. With a flip of her hand, a stream of water appeared in her palm. In a few minutes, the water condensed into ice, and a large block of ice as tall as a person fell beside her. After continuously creating 4 large blocks of ice, the little crown princess silently slapped the water spirit talismans in her hand into the ice block, keeping it in a frozen state. Then, she summoned 4 golems and had them fan themselves. Mu Xingqian's mouth twitched. Sitting beside the little crown princess, he felt a cool breeze blow over, and the stuffy feeling dissipated a lot. His sister really knew how to enjoy life. Arbor took out spirit tea from his inner world and poured a cup for his brother. Then, he heard a phoenix call out, "It's young Lord Long and the others." Feng Zhangqing and Feng Zhangfei hurriedly walked to the railing and looked up. In a vast river, a group of dozens of people stood on wooden planks in a somewhat disheveled state. Drifting with the waves, Mu Xingqian sipped his tea. Before he could speak, he heard Feng Zhangfei yell, "Damn, they look a little miserable." How could Long Shi's group be described as miserable? After parting with the little crown princess and the others in a panic yesterday, Long Shi's group rode on the flying bat. After getting rid of the zither-playing corpse puppet and tossing that thing to Arbor and the others, Long Shi and his sister thought that they were going to start getting lucky. In the end, it started raining in the middle of the night, and the pitter-patter never stopped. They couldn't keep using their spirit power to evaporate the moisture on their bodies. If they continued to evaporate, if they encountered any danger and used up all their spirit power, they really wouldn't be able to do anything. Therefore, the group endured the rain and reluctantly took out some clothes from their inner worlds to cover their heads. In the end, after a night of torment, the flying bat couldn't take it anymore because it was carrying hundreds of people and flying for so long without stopping. Long Shangyun could only take it back. Fortunately, young Master Long had the foresight to store many wooden planks in his inner world. Now that they were tossed out, everyone could at least stand on the wooden planks and float with the current for a short distance. They planned to wait for the flying bats to rest for a while before continuing to fly. What a tragic life. There were so many people on this trip, but only the second miss had a flying spirit beast. Long Huan also had a flying spirit artifact, but it was very small and could only carry 2 people. He didn't want to abandon his clansmen and take his sister away. He still wanted to save face. Fortunately, they weren't too far away from the ferry. At most, they would just have to float for another 4 to 6 hours. They should be able to reach the ferry before evening. He was worried about Arbor and the others. It had been a long time since the little crown princess and the others came. Long Huan was worried that the little crown princess would return to the capital in anger. "Young master, look, there's a ship, there's a ship." Just as he was hesitating, a member of the dragon clan shouted. Long Shanyun's spirit was roused. She looked up and immediately waved her hand at the distant 3-story ship. "Here, here. Hey, over here." Long Huan hurriedly shouted, "Take off." let's fly over and take a look. Emo Yin raised her brows with a half-smile. Wife, they seem to have seen us. How could they not see such a big ship unless they were blind? Everyone couldn't help but grumble in their hearts. They calmly turned to look. Chapter 4265. There was a ship. A 3-story ship was right in front of them. Everyone, don't rush to be the first. Long Qian forced himself to remain calm and turned to warn Long Shangyun. Shangyun, you must remember not to be impetuous. Follow me over to take a look. After saying this, he rose into the air with everyone. As he left, Long Qian didn't forget to put away those wooden planks again in case of an emergency. Don't worry, big brother. Long Shangyun pursed her lips disapprovingly. Everyone was extremely exhausted from the bumpy journey. Now that they saw a large ship appear in front of them, their moods were naturally more agitated. Long Qian led the Forget River Dragon clan members to the side of the ship. He cupped his fists in salute and said in a clear voice, Friend, we are. His eyes landed on the little stoic at the side of the table. Long Qian and the others were instantly stupefied. Feng Zhangfei was leaning against the railing. When he saw Long Qian leading people over, he waved his hand at the Dragon clan members with a resplendent smile. Young Master Long, I trust you have been well since we last met? Long Qian glanced at Feng Zhangfei dumbly. He opened his mouth, but couldn't speak for a long time. Long Shangyun and the others were also stupefied, as though they had been punched in the face. Yes, were their eyes playing tricks on them, or what? Why did the stoic-faced crown princess and the others look so comfortable and contented? Where did this magnificent 3-story ship come from? Could it be that they had already stayed on this ship and spent the night comfortably since last night? After Long Qian's expression changed several times, he finally stabilized his emotions with great difficulty and forced out a smile that was uglier than crying at Feng Zhangfei. Young Master Feng, you guys? What is this ship? Young Master, look, there are so many mechanical people on this ship, and even the one manning the helm is a mechanical person. One of the Forget River Dragon clan members exclaimed in shock. Could it be the legendary Crimson Firmament Wave? Long Qian's eyes abruptly widened as he carefully sized up the large ship in disbelief. Long Shangyun was so shocked that she lost her voice and couldn't utter a word for a long time. Crimson Firmament Wave? The legendary sacred weapon Crimson Firmament Wave ship was actually right in front of them right now. Impossible. Could it be that you're overthinking it? Long Shangyun could not help but shout out. She would never believe that the little crown princess actually had a sacred weapon like the Scarlet Firmament Blue Wave. Impossible. Impossible. Long Shangyun glared at the little stoic and tugged at her eldest brother's sleeve. Long she nodded slightly and led Long Shangyun and the remaining 70 or so clansmen towards the deck. Boom! With a flash of light, the Scarlet Firmament Blue Waves, a large-scale defensive saint artifact, let everyone witness its power. Long Huan and the others were all blocked by the light released by the red Firmament Blue Waves. They looked at each other in confusion. Cousin, can you let us come up first? Arbor looked at Long Hua with a troubled expression. The holy artifact has a spirit. If the red Firmament Blue Wave doesn't allow you to come up, there's nothing I can do. Long Shangyun's pretty face twisted slightly. Who are you trying to fool? Aren't you its master? Won't it be fine if you remove its external defense so that it doesn't block us? Arbor blinked and glanced at her before directly refusing. What do you know? The holy artifact has a spirit and has its own thoughts. It's not something the master can control at will. You indeed don't understand since you don't have a holy artifact. Arbor shook his head at Long Shangyun. Chapter 4266. Long Shangyun nearly vomited blood from anger. Upon seeing this, Long Qian silently pulled Long Shangyun to his side and looked at that stoic face in despair. Although this child didn't have any expression at all at this moment, Long Qian saw the word mischievous on Sir Jojo's small face. Continuing to be mischievous with a wooden face truly made people feel very helpless. Cousin, tell me, what do you want? Long Shangyun turned to look at her elder brother, Long Qian, as if she had seen a ghost. What did elder brother mean by this? Could it be that they still had to pay for a boat ride? They were truly crazy, crazy, crazy. The boat fare is 1,000,000 spirit coins per person, Arbor said expressionlessly. The boat will arrive at the next ferry. After that, you'll have to pay for a bigger boat that's more reliable. Don't let it break down after half a day at sea. At that time, I'm afraid you won't be able to afford the rest of the expensive boat fare. Long Qian already knew how much of a scammer the little crown princess was, but he still underestimated how much of a scammer this stoic face was. He really wanted to cry. Cousin, can you? The little crown princess waved her hand. I'll give you a discount. There are more than 70 people here, so I'll round it off and you'll pay 70,000,000 spirit coins. You might as well rob me. Long Shangyun couldn't resist cursing loudly. The little stoic glanced at her disdainfully. You're so poor from head to toe. What do you have for me to rob you of? This disdainful gaze and disdainful tone made Long Shangyun so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. Here. Long Qian gritted his teeth and agreed. Didn't the little crown princess like money? Then he would give her money, as long as it could improve their relationship. He wouldn't hesitate to give her more money. However, cousin, I don't have that much cash on me. Can you sign an IOU? When we return to River of Forgetfulness, I'll definitely give you the full amount. After saying this, Long Qian immediately realized that his cousin was looking at him with even more disdain. You're too poor. Arbor shook his head. His serious expression of disgust made Feng Zhangqing and the others twitch their mouths. All right then, Arbor sighed. Since we're on the same road, I can't just leave you in the lurch. Unlike you guys, you immediately fled on your flying bats the moment you saw the zombies. The Long siblings' faces alternated between green, white, and red. After the little stoic scolded them, they waved their hands and opened Qishao, Songlong's defensive barrier. Long Huan and the others finally let out a sigh of relief. They quickly went through the gap in the shield and landed on the deck. After a night of torment, Long Huan and the other poor people all looked pale. They were very unlucky. Arbor looked at them and took out a brush and ink from his inner world. Young Master Long, please. Long Huan took a deep breath and quickly signed an IOU and handed it to Arbor. Then, he looked around the interior of Red Nimbus Blue Waves. This deck was more than 3 times wider than their previous ship. Not only was it spacious, but it was also fully furnished with tables, chairs, cups, and plates. More than 100 Phone clansmen sat in groups of 2s and 3s at their respective small tables, drinking tea and munching on melon seeds. Pairs of eyes looked at them curiously. Why the fuck did they look like they deserved a beating after Long Huan landed? He discovered that there were 4 ice walls erected around his cousin. There were 7 to 8 golems fanning themselves on the side. No wonder the cool breeze blew over. On the small table in front of them were tea, snacks, and a few servings of fresh-looking fruits. Long Huan felt a headache coming on, and his eyebrows couldn't help but twitch. Chapter 4267. Why does this guy look like he needs to be taught a lesson? Cousin, this scarlet firmament blue wave is... Oh, you were running too fast. I didn't have time to call you. Arbor said indifferently. This scarlet firmament blue wave was given to me by an elder in Shuntian Prefecture. I don't use it often, so I often forget about it. Xiao Mu's words caused the Long siblings' chest to hurt from choking. They were sure that this guy did it on purpose. Things like not using it often and not being able to remember it were all excuses. She had purposely waited for them to leave on the flying bat before she slowly took out this sacred artifact and placed everyone inside. Long Shangyun pursed her lips and whispered, "He's just watching us make a fool of ourselves." Long Huan tugged at her sleeve, and Long Shangyun shut her mouth in embarrassment. "Young Master Long, I think you guys are tired." Mu Xingchen stood up and said, "I'll bring you guys to the rooms on the 2nd floor to rest." Long Shi immediately looked at Mu Xingchen with a wary gaze. How could they be so kind? Don't worry, 1,000,000 spirit coins is enough to cover food and lodging. Mu Xingchen explained and gestured for them to enter. Long Shi heaved a sigh of relief. That's right. When the little crown princess asked them for a sky-high price, she did say that the fairy fare was 1,000,000 spirit coins, but she didn't say anything about food and lodging. Long Shi and his sister followed Mu Xingqian to the second floor. Only then did they realize that there were many rooms on the second floor. From the outside, the scarlet firmament blue wave looked like a 3-story ship that was slightly bigger than a normal ship. But when they got closer, they realized that the cabin seemed to stretch on endlessly. As they walked along the corridor, they seemed to have passed by dozens of rooms, but they still couldn't see the end of the cabin. As expected of a sacred weapon, Long Shi was speechless. It seemed that the space on this ship was completely different from the outside world. Big brother, is there something wrong with the space here? This is the sacred weapon space. It looks no different from a normal ship from the outside, but when you enter, you realize that it's a completely different world. Mu Xingqian stood still and pointed to the rooms behind. The rooms in front are all occupied by us. You guys can do whatever you want in the back. Long Shangyun hurriedly opened the door to one of the rooms. After closing the door, she went to open another one. Mu Xingqian said faintly, "Miss Long, the furnishings in the room are exactly the same. There's no need to be picky." The reason he brought them here was to prevent them from entering the wrong room. "Thank you." Long Huan sincerely thanked Mu Xingqian. Then, he let his younger sister choose a room to enter while he chose the one opposite. The other members of the Dragon Clan also went to choose their own rooms to wash up and rest. Mu Xingqian nodded at Long Yun. "Young Master Long, you've worked hard this time. I won't disturb you any further. If you want to eat, please come to the deck." "Thank you, cousin." Long Qi hurriedly cupped his hands and watched Mu Xingqian leave. He wasn't in a hurry to return to his room. Instead, he pushed open the door and walked in. Long Shangyun was touching everywhere with a curious look on her face. She touched the bedside table for a while, and then touched the lamp at the side. "These are all made of wood." Long Shangyun rolled onto the wooden bed and heaved a sigh of relief. Although there was no mattress or blanket and it felt hard to sleep, at least it was sheltered from the wind and rain. The room was warm and fragrant. It was much better than sleeping outside for a night. Chapter 4268. Who knows how much effort it took to create such a sacred weapon? Long Shi sighed. Who would have thought that his little cousin could get her hands on such a sacred weapon? She really was not an ordinary person. Long Shangyun sat up, curled her lips, and complained in a low voice. "As the crown princess of the Divine Land, I don't believe that the Divine Land will shortchange her expenses." Even so, she still wanted to rob them of their spirit coins. This sacred weapon must be a treasure passed down from generation to generation. The crown prince must have given it to her to get on her good side. Long Shangyun twisted her sleeves and said angrily, "Enough. The sacred weapon has already recognized its master. Even if you get it, you can't use it." Long Shi did not covet the scarlet firmament wave. As the young master of the River of Forgetfulness, he grew up in the River of Forgetfulness. The River of Forgetfulness mystic realm was huge. Naturally, he knew how many treasures the River of Forgetfulness Dragon Clan had. Snow Ridge, Sacred Ground, River of Forgetfulness Cold Valley, Sacrificial Sea Abyss. It was said that they all had extremely deep and vast mystic realms. They were on par with the Pond Lotus Sacred Realm. After so many years, the River of Forgetfulness people could only step into the outermost area of the Pond Lotus Sacred Realm. They could not even enter a little. One could imagine how many secrets were hidden there. How could there be fewer treasures? Hence, he did not need to be jealous of the sacred weapons in his cousin's hands. Because once he inherited the River of Forgetfulness, he would have as many sacred weapons as his cousin. "All right, don't think too much." Long Shi comforted his sister. "The Scarlet Firmament Wave is very fast. It will probably reach the harbor in 2 hours. We will make plans when we get there." "Do we really have to buy another ship?" Long Shangyun was angry. That woman had the Scarlet Firmament Wave? Why would she not use such a useful sacred weapon? She even wanted her brother to buy another ship to return to the River of Forgetfulness. That was too extravagant and immature. Long Shi laughed bitterly. "We can't afford the Scarlet Firmament Wave. 2 hours is 1,000,000 spirit coins per person. How much do you think we have to pay to return to the river of forgetfulness? Long Shangyun couldn't help but shudder. Such a huge expenditure was enough to buy 100 luxurious ships. The brother and sister chatted for a while and complained about Arbor before they went to rest. Sure enough, at noon, scarlet firmament blue waves sailed into the nearby port. Arbor got everyone to pack up and go ashore. He took out a sealing ball and put the huge ship back into the sealing ball. At this time, there were many ships and pedestrians coming and going from the port. Everyone was flabbergasted by Xiao Mu's extravagant setup. After all, watching a 3-story ship being sealed by a small transparent ball was simply an act of the gods to mortals. Xiao Mu was also quite helpless when she saw this. She naturally didn't want to be so high profile, but if she took out her storage talisman, it would be even more shocking. If Long Shi and his sister saw a storage talisman that could hold such a large ship, their jaws would probably drop in shock. Cousin, Shan Yun, and I are going to buy a boat first. You can stroll around nearby. Arbor nodded calmly. Do as you wish. After the brother and sister left, Arbor tugged at her husband's hand. Let's find a tea house to sit for a while. Okay, this small city along the river was not big. Chapter 4269. After Sir Jojo gave a cursory glance at the trinkets for sale along the river, he lost interest in continuing to stroll around. Since that pair of siblings had gone to buy a boat, there was no point in strolling around idly here, so they might as well go to a nearby tea house. The group of more than 100 people followed behind the little crown princess and slowly walked toward the tea house. Along the way, they saw many young men and women selling along the river, casting coquettish glances at the beautiful phoenix youths. A bold tea servant actually jumped up and casually threw a flower in the crown prince's direction. Crown Prince Emo dodged to the side, and the little stoic vigilantly turned her head to look back. When the smitten young girls saw her gaze as cold as a knife, they instantly shrunk back. Ridiculous! Everyone only heard the little stoic turn her head and mutter quietly, "Why are you littering?" Everyone. The corner of Mu Xingqian's eyes twitched. The group of more than 100 people followed the little stoic girl up to the second floor of the tea house. This tea house beside the small harbor was rather spacious, and they occupied more than a dozen tables, so it didn't seem especially crowded. Say, do you think Long Huan and his sister can find a good boat? I think it's unlikely. Mu Xingqian was the first to express his opinion. He shook his head and said, even we aren't familiar with this small harbor city, let alone 2 people from Forget River. Even if they can buy a boat, they'll probably be ruthlessly scammed in such a hurry. Oh, the little stoic took out a teapot of spiritual tea and handed it to her husband. Emol Yin naturally took it and poured a cup of tea for his wife. He casually said, if they casually buy a boat, it won't work once it enters the sea. At that time, will we still need to use the red firmament waves to ferry them? We'll ferry them if they pay. Arbor thought about it and said, is Forget River very poor? Mu Xingqian couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Why do you say that, younger sister? I think Long Huan seems very poor. Arbor looked disdainful. He's the grand young master of Forget River, yet he only has those few spirit coins in his pocket. He's also stingy and unwilling to pay with spirit stones and divine stones. Why did he have to pay on credit? I really feel sad for him. What young master? I think the streets are filled with people who are richer than him. Everyone was speechless. In this world, there were really not many who could be richer than young Lord Long. It's not that Long Yun is poor. It's just that he's been squeezed too badly by you, okay? Feng Zhangqing drank his tea silently. The corner of Feng Zhangfei's mouth twitched. A phoenix youth nodded and said, the saintess is right. That Long Huan is too petty. Feng Zhangfei. These children of the Phoenix clan had all been brainwashed by Grand Elder Feng Ping and the 2 consecrators. Now, they were all calling her saintess. They had all become Lord Jojo's die-hard fans. Tap, tap. Waves of faint fragrance spread out. Everyone's line of sight inadvertently looked towards the stairs, only to see a group of more than 10 people slowly walking up the stairs. All of them were handsome men with red lips and white teeth. Along the way, they attracted the screams of countless infatuated young girls. Those bold team maidens directly followed them, letting out infatuated giggles along the way. They chattered noisily in a flock of orioles and swallows. Arbor swept a glance over, but before she could make out anything, the other party already cried out in pleasant surprise, "Little Stoic, it's you?" The little Stoic glanced at them expressionlessly before hastily turning her head to look at her husband. As expected, her husband's handsome face had already darkened. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple. They were the 7 flowers that filled the air with spring. Chapter 4270. Truly, it was a small world. The little Stoic thought this in her heart, but she put on a "I'm not very familiar with you guys" expression. She sat upright and still, but there wasn't a trace of a smile on her Stoic face. So what if she didn't smile? In any case, everyone was already used to her expressionless face. This didn't dampen the enthusiasm of the 7 flowers to greet her. Red ran over first with a grin and enthusiastically shook the little Stoic's hand. "Stoic face, are you also going to participate in the Beauty Appreciation Conference?" Without batting an eyelid, Emolien raised an arm to block the beautiful man in red's claw. The beautiful man in red felt like he had touched an iron plate and resentfully retracted his hand. He glared at Emolien several times before turning to continue conversing with the little Stoic. "Isn't that right? What Beauty Appreciation Conference?" The little Stoic originally didn't want to pay attention to this person, but out of curiosity, she still answered. LVE floated over and glanced at Sir Jojo resentfully. "Stoic, why did you run away so quickly last time at the springtime conference? I didn't even have time to talk to you." The little girl's survival instinct was extremely strong. She turned back to glance at Emolien and immediately shifted her stool closer to her husband. "I don't know what you're talking about. What springtime conference? Stop pretending." Red and LVE waved their hands at the same time. "That day, you saved our Meng Meng. We didn't even have time to thank you before you jumped out the window and ran away like a rabbit." Arbor, "Haha, this lord ran away? You're spouting nonsense." Cough, cough, cough. Mu Xingchen choked on his tea and stood up. "Does everyone know my sister? Why don't you take a seat first?" "Ah, you're the Stoic face's big brother." "Hello, big brother." Big brother umlauning. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple surrounded him and started talking at once. "Who's your big brother?" Emolien's expression darkened, and his handsome face was about to explode. "Humph. Meng Meng, let's sit." "Ignore him." Red pulled Fan Meng and dragged a stool to sit next to the little Stoic. "Facial paralysis. Are you going to attend the Beauty Appreciation Conference?" "I'm asking you about the Beauty Appreciation Conference." Arbor asked impatiently. "You don't know?" Hong Yi asked curiously. "The Empress of the Fallen Beauty Kingdom has invited all the beautiful men in the world to attend the Beauty Appreciation Conference." "Ah, speaking of which, the ancestor of this devastating female kingdom seems to have some relationship with your Mu clan. I don't know if you've heard that among the ancestors of your Mu clan, there's someone called Madame Qingchen." Xiaomu abruptly turned her head and gazed icily at that red-clothed man who was rambling on incessantly. Seeing that his voice was getting softer and softer, she involuntarily paused and stammered. "WH, what is it? Do you know who I am?" Arbor's eyes were like water, but they were extremely cold as he stared straight at the beautiful man in red. The other party's heart was pounding, and he couldn't help but stutter again. Yes, yes, investigate me?" Arbor looked at him coldly and said in a low voice, "I don't think I've ever told you who I am." During their most recent contact, she only told Fan Yu that her surname was Qiao. Someone from the heavenly fate. A blue spark suddenly jumped out of Arbor's hand. "Isn't that right?" What heavenly fate?" The red-clothed man exclaimed in fright and hastily hid behind Fan Meng. "State your objective. Otherwise, all of you will stay here." Chapter 4271. As soon as she finished speaking, The 7 flowers all started sobbing. No motive. What motive could there be? Little Stoic, you're hurting our hearts too much like this. Look at us. We're all people without the strength to trust a chicken. What motive could we possibly have towards you? Wah wah wah. Wah wah wah. And here I thought we could become good friends. I didn't expect you to guard against us like this. Arbor had never seen such a scene before. A group of men surrounded her and started sobbing, looking very brokenhearted. The Duanyu, Omega Kitoku, and Mingyasi she encountered before, even if she dragged them around and beat them up, killed their souls with arrows, and fed them poison and medicine, they still wouldn't sob at her. Was it because the world was unpredictable, or did she encounter a group of oddballs? The little Stoic blinked as she held a sparkling blue flame, suddenly at a loss for what to do. Faced with a group of sobbing men, the little Stoic expressed that what could she do? To be honest, she really didn't want to waste her breath on a matter that could be resolved with her fists. Moreover, she still had to face a group of love-struck women's accusation and contempt, plus their resentful and indignant gazes. It was as if she had done something extremely tragic to coerce these handsome, young men from good families. Arbor instantly felt mentally and physically exhausted. Feng Chanqing couldn't resist twitching his mouth. This was also their first time seeing a large group of handsome men sobbing. When Mu Xingqian saw the little Stoic standing there stiffly, seemingly a loss for words as she held the blue spiritual cleansing flame, he quickly jumped out to put out the fire and smooth things over. Lightly patting his sister's small hand, Mu Xingqian quickly reached out to help her extinguish the blue spiritual cleansing flame. Sister, I see that these sirs have no cultivation at all, so they shouldn't be related to the heavenly providence. Cough, cough, cough. What Mu Xingqian didn't say was, how could they be people of the heavenly providence when they looked so weak that they could be blown away by a gust of wind and run away with a kick? It didn't match their image at all. The little Stoic lowered her eyes and put down her small hand, glancing at them suspiciously. She had always believed in her intuition and felt that there was something wrong with the 7 flowers. The beautiful man in red wiped his tears and said pitifully, "Woo-woo, we did investigate, Miss Xiao, but we only wanted to know who you were." LVE continued to whine. "Yes, we just want to be friends with you. I've never thought of harming you." Stoic-faced young lady. "Stop crying, or I'll poison you all into mutes," Arbor said expressionlessly. Everyone was speechless. The little Stoic's words put an end to the sobbing sounds everywhere. As expected, the 7 flowers didn't dare to carelessly sob in front of the little Stoic. Miss Xiao, who was getting a headache from the sobbing, only relaxed when she saw that they had all shut up. With a cold expression, she said, "Come here." Her little finger pointed at Fan Meng, who was being carried by Red Shirt. Fan Meng widened her watery eyes and looked at her for a few seconds. Then, she moved her feet and obediently took a few steps forward. When Arbor saw this person's pitiful expression that resembled a little white rabbit, she inexplicably felt that she had been a bit fierce to them just now. After pressing down a dictum talisman with her small hand, Xiao Mu expressionlessly warned, "Don't try anything funny." Fan Meng and the others repeatedly shook their heads, indicating that they didn't have any ill intentions toward the little lady. Although Arbor still felt that their actions were a bit suspicious, she didn't like to accuse people without evidence. Chapter 4272. Unless she could find concrete evidence, she would definitely slap them to death at that time before that. She didn't want to bully the weak and didn't like to cause trouble for no reason. What sense of accomplishment was there in bullying a bunch of pitiful people? Arbor thought about it and put away the dictum talisman for the time being. Then, he glanced at Fan Meng and the others. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Hong Yi couldn't help but lean forward and ask curiously, "Miss Qiao, do you want to head to Devastating Female Kingdom together?" Prince Imo said coldly, "We aren't on the same side as you." The Crown Prince felt that these people were even more unpleasant to the eye than the Feng tribe. The Feng tribe treated his wife with a very normal attitude. At most, their dog-like eyes would flash with adoration. However, these 7 flowers were different. When they saw his wife, they were like cats that smelled fish and swarmed toward them without any explanation. They were extremely loathsome, instigating his wife to go to that whatever female kingdom. What were their intentions? Devastating female kingdom is pretty fun. I heard that it's the place that female cultivators like to stay the most. Right. Many female cultivators with powerful cultivations are rushing to join devastating female kingdom. Why? The little stoic really wanted to continue pulling a long face, but when she saw Hong Yi's smiling face, she inexplicably answered. Emolien, his wife, was very curious. Many times, her train of thought would run away after being teased slightly. Hong immediately continued to educate her in high spirits. Don't you know Jojo? As long as any female cultivator above the divine realm who enters devastating female kingdom swears allegiance to the queen, they will be conferred an official position. At the same time, they will be bestowed 3 to 5 beautiful husbands. What 3 to 5? I heard it's 7 to 8, Lu E quickly added. The surrounding flowers nodded in unison. MHM, MHM, MHM. Fan Ming tugged at Hong Yi, who was rambling nonstop. Hong Yi, don't be so rude in front of Jojo. Mu Xingqian quickly turned around to look at his brother-in-law's expression. As expected, that handsome face was already on the verge of exploding. How could these flower buds, who lacked the strength to truss a chicken, dare to crazily test Mo Lian's bottom line in front of him? Mu Xingqian was about to say something to smooth things over again. However, he heard the little stoic ask coldly, "What use is it?" Huh? Hong Yi, Lu Yi, and the others didn't understand what Little Mushroom was talking about. What's the use of having 3, 5, 7, 8 beauties? The little stoic asked expressionlessly with a taut face. At this time, they were on the second floor of the tea house. A large group of infatuated women who were watching the handsome young man were now blocking the entrance to the second floor in a large circle. On the street below, the peddlers' cries and children's giggles could be heard very clearly. However, although there were over 100 people gathered in the tea room on the second floor, it was completely silent at this moment. It was as if a pause button had been pressed on everyone, and everyone was suddenly mute. It wasn't just the red clothes and green clothes. They didn't know what to say to the little crown princess. Even Mo Lian couldn't resist twitching his mouth. He simply didn't know how to respond to his wife's question. What's the use of having 3, 5, 7, 8 beauties? What's the use? What's the use? This was a good question. Mu Xingqian couldn't resist raising his hand to cover his face. He quickly diverted this rather awkward topic. Changfei, go out and take a look. Young Master Long and the others seem to have been gone for a long time. Why haven't they returned yet? Chapter 4273. Feng Zhangfei stood up and frowned slightly when he saw the love-struck women blocking the second-floor staircase. Just as he was about to walk over, he heard Long Huan's voice from behind the stairs. What is everyone blocking here for? Long Shangyun even bluntly shouted, move aside, all of you move aside. What are you doing? What are you looking at? Pushing aside those onlooking tea maidens, Long Shangyun walked up the stairs with her chin held high. As soon as she saw the little stoic sitting there unmoving like a mountain, she couldn't help but get angry. The boat has already been bought. It cost my brother a lot of money. We can set off after eating. Long Huan smiled at the little crown princess. Don't worry, cousin. Several boatmen have already inspected the boat and said there are no problems at all. There shouldn't be any accidents on this trip to the River of Forgetfulness. If there was an accident, they couldn't afford to ride the Crown Princess Scarlet Sky waves. Looking at the situation, if it really didn't work, they could only mutate their merman tails first. However, it would be more troublesome than, speaking of which, after they mutated their merman tails, they couldn't return to their human forms in the short term. They would suffer a lot if they transacted with humans in their merman forms. That was why they didn't want to mutate in yesterday's situation, so they could only torment themselves along the way. Arbor uttered an "oh." There were now more than 200 people in the entire tea room on the second floor, but it fell silent again. Long Huan didn't know what to say to the crown princess and just stood there in a daze for a long time. He couldn't bear this silent atmosphere and finally couldn't resist laughing dryly. Crown princess, in a few days, it will be devastating female kingdom's annual queen's birthday. It will be grand, and there will be many people attending the birthday celebration. Do you want to go? If you want to go, this older brother can accompany you on this trip. Red shirt and green shirt's eyes lit up simultaneously, wishing for nothing more than to go up and tug on the little stoic's sleeve. Small sparks flickered in their eyes. Jojo, why don't we go together? It's indeed very fun. Arbor looked meaningfully at Long Huan. The latter's hair stood on end when she looked at him. At the same time, he couldn't help but shudder. Before the little stoic could open her mouth with ill intentions, Long Huan hastily raised his hand and said, "Younger cousin, stop your strange thoughts. I'm not someone who likes men. I'm not here to look at handsome men. I'm just looking at you. If you want to go and take a look, then let's go. In any case, Qingsheng Womanland will also pass by when the time comes. It won't delay our journey back to the river of forgetfulness. But if you don't want to go, then forget it." Long, she explained quickly, causing Mu Xingchen to glance at him speechlessly. Arbor was just about to speak when he heard Qiuqiu's cute voice in his mind. Master Silver, don't reject him yet. I think the country this person is talking about might have my fragment." Arbor raised his eyebrows and used his soul consciousness to communicate. "How did you know? You can sense it even though it's so far away?" "Master Silver, you don't know, but I've already assimilated 5 tree fragments and am only 2 steps away from completely restoring my soul. My 5 senses can now cover a radius of 5,000 kilometers around, Master. Not only have my 5 senses strengthened, but I also seem to have formed a tacit connection with the remaining 2 tree fragments." When that person said devastating female kingdom, Qiuqiu felt something stir in my heart. Chapter 4274. Master, do you understand? It's that feeling when your heart is stirred and you feel slightly fettered, like your heart is stirred. Master, let's go take a look." Qiuqiu's ghostly howls made Arbor's head hurt. What the fuck? Stir, do you even know how to use words? When Arbor completely returned to her senses, she saw that the surroundings were dead silent, and everyone was uniformly staring at her. Emolien raised his hand to pull her back. He raised a brow and asked softly, "What's wrong? Is Qiuqiu talking to you?" Sir Jojo nodded at him and then said to Long Huan, "All right." Long Huan was momentarily at a loss. What do you mean, all right?" Mu Xingchen couldn't resist rolling his eyes at him. Younger sister said, "All right, let's just make a trip to that devastating women's kingdom." Emolien hastily lowered his head to look at his wife, his gaze slightly puzzled. He understood his wife very well. With her pragmatic personality, there must be something in devastating women's kingdom that attracted her. Otherwise, she wouldn't bother to join in on such a large-scale event. Arbor secretly pulled his hand over and drew the word tree on his palm. Emolien instantly understood and nodded slightly at her. Devastating women's kingdom had tree seed fragments? The group had a simple lunch and headed downstairs toward the harbor. "Jojo, do you want to come and sit on our boat?" 7 Flowers enthusiastically invited the little stoic. The latter glanced at them expressionlessly. "No need." "Then, Jojo, if you run into any trouble on the way, remember to find us. We will definitely help." The group of handsome young men chattered as they bade farewell to Arbor and headed to their own boat. Lady Si Chiao raised her hand to press on her aching head, then followed Long Huan's footsteps. Women are respected in devastating women's kingdom. You must not act rashly when you go there. Young Master Long didn't forget to educate the Phoenix tribe members on the way. This country isn't that big. It has 3 islands and 16 fishing villages. However, the behavior of the women there is extremely valiant. This is especially true for some of the fishing villages far away from Qingsheng Island. Some of the local women are uncivilized. That's why you have to be careful when you go there. Remember to cover your faces. As Long Huan spoke, he took out a black cloth from his inner world and handed it to his subordinate to distribute to everyone. When the time comes, everyone has to be blindfolded, except for women. Why? Arbor asked in confusion. Long Yun couldn't help but sneer. I've already said that the women of devastating beauty country are the most respected. Pretty boys like them. Long Yun pointed at Feng Zhangqing and the others. She crossed her arms and snorted. Walking on the street, it's easy to be robbed. Arbor was furious. Who dares? The phoenixes nodded repeatedly and said, we will only serve the saintess for the rest of our lives. We swear that we will never obey anyone else. Arbor. Strange, her husband's face darkened even more. She really wanted to turn back and tell the phoenixes, you can't listen to Feng Heping. Don't be brainwashed by Feng Heping and the two high consecrators. However, Emol Yin was very angry. She grabbed her little hand and pulled her away without another word. Sigh. A man's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. It seems that Sir Jojo needs to comfort him. When will her husband grow up? It's so worrying. I'm sleepy. I'll catch up on my sleep tomorrow. Chapter 4275. After the ship had sailed some distance away from the ferry, Arbor realized that the ship Seven Flowers was steadily sailing in front of them, braving the wind and waves with great momentum. The sound of a guqin and singing came from afar. It seemed that Seven Flowers and the others were in the mood to play the guqin on the ship. I don't know why, but whenever I hear the guqin music, I get goosebumps. Long Huan, who was standing in front of the deck against the wind, couldn't help but shiver and reach out to rub his arms. After being attacked by the zither-playing corpse puppet twice in a row, Long Huan's heart was traumatized. Arbor didn't feel much. He just turned to Long Huan and said, don't let your guard down for the next few days. If that cultured corpse puppet has the guts to come once or twice, it can come a third or fourth time until the sneak attack is complete. That corpse puppet is so persistent. What exactly is it after? Arbor couldn't help but sneer. Of course, it's because someone has their eye on me. Eye on you? Long Yun couldn't help but interrupt. Who has their eye on you? Arbor couldn't be bothered with her at first, but the siblings were looking at him strangely. Isn't it normal to have their eye on Jojo? Emol Yin said dryly. I thought that young Master Long had thoroughly investigated Xiao Xiao's matters, including the irreversible mortal enmity between us and Tianyin. You mean to say that the zither-playing corpse puppet was actually targeting Xiao Mu? Long Yun immediately revealed her discontent. Then why did it attack them? You think that corpse puppet is smart enough to distinguish our relationship? Mu Xingqian sneered. You're traveling with us. In the corpse puppet's eyes, you're all its enemies. But Long Yun couldn't help but be angry. That lousy corpse puppet had been targeting the Wangchuan Dragon Clan since the beginning, making her think that these people were the Wangchuan Dragon Clan's enemies. After all this time, it turned out that they were here to attack the little crown princess. Weren't they too stupid to know who they were attacking? Long Yun took a deep breath. Tianyin will still send people? Arbor turned around and left with an innocent look on his face. How would I know? Monsieur, you should know now, right? Even if you can summon half of the corpse fish in the river with just one special class corpse puppet, you might not be able to defeat that little crown princess. Mu Rochuan stood by the window and gazed at the rolling river in the distance. She said in a deep voice, tonight we'll be entering the sea. Hier's expression turned a little ugly. Eldest miss, do you have any better way to deal with this matter? That special grade corpse puppet can only summon its subordinates within a radius of 500 miles. Any further, and its voice won't have any effect on others. Mu Rochuan's voice was indifferent as she said, you've already let him out twice, but he didn't succeed even once. Hier's expression turned even uglier. Then what do you think we should do? None of Mother's methods will work. Mu Rochuan shook her head. Based on my understanding of her, she's definitely on guard against you all right now. Once you let 16 go, he'll definitely be captured by her. 16 won't be able to survive. You and I, all of us, won't be able to survive. Hier couldn't help but be furious. Eldest miss, you've said so much. Are you trying to retreat? Mu Rochuan sighed softly. Chapter 4276. You're too impatient. Mu Rochuan put down the letter in her hand. She had read this letter from her mother so many times that she could already recite it backwards. She had studied all of her mother's plans once, but the results were very low. Especially if they attacked at sea, it was simply courting death. With the young crown prince consort's vigilance, you want to succeed in a sneak attack on this vast land with no cover on the sea? It was probably wishful thinking. I've sorted out my mother's plans. You should all stop for a while. When we reach the river of forgetfulness, we'll think of a way to attack. Eldest Mississippi, Missier, if you think my method is inappropriate, we can work separately. He frowned and glanced at Mu Rochuan. Her gaze fell on the left side of her face. That ugly centipede scar was very conspicuous. No girl who loved beauty could stand it. However, Mu Rochuan endured it. She had never even asked the hallmaster for a beautifying pill. He believed that as long as Mu Rochuan was willing to ask, the hallmaster would not be stingy with giving it to her. What was the reason that made the eldest miss of the Mu family not even care about her appearance now? Was there anything else she cared about? He's frown deepened. If a person did not have any weaknesses, then it was really difficult to control them, because the uncertain factors were too high. He took a deep look at Mu Rochuan, then turned and walked out. 3 days later, Long Huan stood on the deck and looked at a dilapidated, small fishing village in the distance. From where they were, they could see many stiff-looking things walking around on the beach by the sea. How did this place become like this? Long Shangyun clenched her fists, and a trace of disdain appeared on her face. It spread so quickly. Long Huan sighed and looked at the things walking and stopping on the beach. He shook his head and said, "If it continues like this, it will spread to the vicinity of the river of forgetfulness one day. If you continue to let it go, won't it be a matter of time before it spreads?" Mu Xingqian could not help but sneer. Arbor sat at the table and drank tea. He was too lazy to even bat an eyelid. In the past 3 days, the ship's journey had been quite stable. Only yesterday evening, they had encountered a large corpse shark, which had been taken care of by the joint efforts of everyone. Nothing else had happened. Some of the creatures in the sea had already mutated. Big Brother was right. If they regularly sent people out to sea to clean up the mutant fish, the situation could be controlled to a certain extent. Unlike now, where everyone in that village had mutated because they had eaten something that mutated. You make it sound easy, but how much manpower and resources would it take to truly control it? Long Shangyun couldn't help but angrily rebuke Mu Xingqian. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but roll his eyes. So this is the reason why you're not doing anything? These villages that live by the sea will probably mutate like this village soon. Long Shangyun raised her chin proudly. Even if all these foolish fishermen die, the river of forgetfulness will still stand. Where we live, you humans on the shore can't even imagine it. You can't even come into contact with it. Mu Xingqian raised his eyebrows non-committally and did not continue arguing with her. After traveling for another half a day, 3 beautiful islands appeared before everyone's eyes. Let's continue at night. Chapter 4277. There were many ships queuing up to enter the port. Long Huan's ship was behind a large fleet of ships. Looking at the situation, it would take at least an hour for them to enter the port. After about 15 minutes, Long Huan turned to look in Mu Xingqian's direction. Is cousin still resting? It's about time. Let her wake up. For the past few days, Long Huan knew the little girl's routine. After lunch, it was time to sleep. She would dawdle for several hours and would only leave the cabin in the evening to meet people. How would Long Huan know that every time after lunch, the little girl would drag her husband back to Paradise Planet to play? Who would be happy to be on this ship day and night? Of course, it would be more comfortable to rest in the star domain and refine talismans and pills. Mu Xingqian glanced at Long Huan and said lightly, "Don't worry. Jojo will come out in a while." Long Shangyun snorted. Some people always dawdle out in the evening. We're about to reach the port But no one will stay here to wait. Before Long Yun could say the word her voice trailed off. Her gaze turned to the railing on the second floor. A slender, moon-white figure slowly appeared by the side of the railing. Her soft hair was tied up into a bun that fell loosely to her waist. Her eyes were cold, and her gaze was like snow. The little girl was dressed in a white robe with wide sleeves. She stood there coldly, as if there was only this patch of white in the world. It was eye-catching. Long Huan stared blankly until Long Yun tugged at his sleeve. Only then did he regain his senses. Arbor's figure had already disappeared from the railing on the second floor. Not long after, Long Huan noticed Prince Imo holding her hand. They walked down to the deck together. People from Alluring Female Kingdom are more, straightforward. Long Huan considered his words and glanced at Feng Chongqing and the others. Cover yourselves with the black cloth I gave you earlier. Arbor said lightly, no need. It's not like they can't be seen. How can he think of covering their faces? Long Huan, why doesn't this person listen to advice? Cousin, I'm just thinking for you. Long Yun coughed lightly and said with a serious face, take them away from the ship. Let me tell you, I don't think you'll be able to walk out of this pier. I'm not trying to scare you. With a serious expression, Long Huan looked at the little stoic and advised earnestly, how about you just install talismans on them? Feng Zhangqing, why are we being despised like this? The little stoic glanced at him. Why aren't you blindfolding yourself? Long Huan quickly pulled out a piece of black cloth from under his collar and covered his mouth from his nose to his mouth. The corner of Mu Xingqian's mouth twitched speechlessly. The little stoic looked at him, and the corners of her lips faintly curled up into a faintly discernible smile. Long Shi's appearance was extremely like a retard. Long Huan was taken aback, and his heart was touched. He had been traveling with this cousin of his for so many days, but he had never seen her smile from beginning to end. She would either roll her eyes at him or be expressionless most of the time. Today's faint smile was simply indescribable. It made people unable to take their eyes off her. It was as if the sun, moon, and stars were all blooming at the same time. Just now, the mountains and rivers in front of him had a strange feeling that they were brightening. Suddenly, Imo Yin's expressionless, handsome face appeared in his line of sight, blocking the little girl's slender figure. Have you prepared the customs clearance documents? Chapter 4279. The female official took the document and stamped it, revealing a regretful expression. Is that so? Her gaze slid reluctantly over Mo Yin, Feng Chongqing, and the others. That's really too much of a pity. Long Huan trembled slightly. He took the customs clearance document from the female official and chuckled awkwardly. No, it's not a pity. Sir, please move aside. We cough, we're going to disembark. Oh. The female official led the others off the ship. Only then did Long Huan lead his clansmen, Feng Chongqing, Imo Yin, and the others off the ship and onto the shore. A bustling crowd was in front of them. Long Huan's face was covered in black cloth, so he didn't attract much attention. However, Imo Yin, Feng Chongqing, and Mu Xingqian had just stepped onto the shore when they were met with a wave of chatter. The onlooking women couldn't even walk now. They all squeezed to the front, their eyes wide as saucers as they stared at Imo Yin and the others. Long Yun, who was standing to the side and watching the show, couldn't help but frown when she saw his intoxicated appearance. She glared angrily in Arbor's direction, a trace of sullenness in her eyes. I already told them to cover their faces. Look at them now. They can't even walk anymore. Arbor. A familiar voice suddenly sounded from behind the crowd. Arbor looked in the direction of the voice and saw the crowd being pushed to the sides. A young woman walked out from the center. She was wearing a thin red muslin dress and a silk cloak. The woman was barefooted, and 2 jingling bells hung from her ankles. She was slowly walking toward her. A pair of clear eyes stared straight at her, her gaze never leaving her. I didn't expect to meet you here. The woman's gaze lightly swept over her. Crown Princess, you're busy. Don't tell me you don't remember me? Looking at the expressionless face in front of her, the woman curled her lips slightly. The holy virgin of the demonic cult, Seekong Fulling. Arbor naturally did not have such a bad memory as Seekong Fulling had described. Moreover, she and this Seekong Fulling could be considered to have met many times. Of course, it was impossible for her to not remember this person. Seekong Fulling smiled as she raised her hand to tidy up a strand of hair at her temples. She said with a gratified expression, "Fortunately, I don't have to introduce myself anymore." Saintess. Meng Meiyu worriedly stepped forward. She really wanted to remind this holy maiden that the little stoic in front of her really wasn't an easy person to get along with. Yet unexpectedly, Seekong Fulling suddenly summoned a long sword and stabbed it in the little stoic's direction without any explanation. Wow! The crowd let out a long exclamation. The eyes of devastating female kingdom's onlookers lit up as they looked at Seekong Fulling, who had suddenly made a move to find fault. One of them couldn't help but laugh out loud. Haha, I didn't expect it to be so lively when we just arrived at the port. Excuse me, may I ask what they are doing? Why did you start fighting as soon as you met? You really are ignorant and inexperienced. In our devastating female kingdom, you can only draw your sword if you want to steal her man. Another person said eagerly, I'll also go and try later. What happened? Mu Xingchen and Prince Mo looked at each other in dismay, and black lines immediately appeared on their foreheads. This young lady can only accept the challenge, of course. I see. But speaking of which, since someone is challenging her, wouldn't she be a coward if she didn't accept the challenge? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.